first item of business, as always, is public comment. And I don't believe there is any, but we'll check to make sure. There is no public comment. Then we will, our next order of business is to move to executive session. Somewhere in this stack, I have a clip.
It should have been in the front of the folder.
Was it in front? Here it is, thank you. So for today, under the Article 3-305B of the General Provisions of the State of Maryland, the Annotated Code, we can go into executive session for the following reasons: to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, or removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, and any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. Consider the investment of public funds, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice on a legal matter, and to conduct collective bargaining and negotiations or consider matters that relate to negotiations. Our topics for this evening under the first item is personnel, is professional leave requests, certificated staffing recommendations, personnel update, organizational chart, and superintendent evaluation. Under number 5, the investment of public funds, investment possibilities relating to the OPEB trust. Under legal counsel, it is an update regarding pending litigation. And under collective bargaining is an update regarding the status of negotiations. We will be discussing this in closed session rather than open session under the personnel topics because they include a discussion of specific individuals, which is a confidential employment matter. For the investment of public funds, the board will be considering this investment possibility, and in the event that funds are actually invested, the closed session minutes as to this topic pursuant to the Open Meetings Act will be unsealed at such time as the funds are invested. For legal advice, this is specific legal advice from counsel, which is protected by attorney-client privilege, and under collective bargaining, this is the confidential nature of the negotiation process. So with all that said, is there a motion to go into executive session for the stated reasons?
So moved.
Wow, it's all over. I heard it over here. Monica, is that the first? So Monica, and a second?
Second.
I'll give Tom a second. Okay. Been moved and seconded to go into executive session. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. We are in executive session. She was named the 2019 Carson Scholarship recipient. Each year, the Carson Scholarship Fund recognizes a select group of high-achieving students in grades 4 through 11 who demonstrate outstanding academic achievement and humanitarian qualities. Students receive a $1,000 college scholarship award and the coveted honor of being named a Carson Scholar. These recognized winners have maintained high academic standards and a strong commitment to their communities. Laura, along with the other Carson Scholars, were honored in May, the 23rd Annual Awards Banquet in
as many other students as they can, all for the purpose of making a difference through STEM-ready kids. See. This past year, GACO has grown to over 30 students from both northern and southern high schools, with about equally split between the boys and girls. GACO helps support the other GCPS first teams, including 5 First Lego League, junior teams, 13 First League, Lego League, or FLL teams, as well as 7 First Tech Challenge teams. Also, this past year, with the help of a recently awarded ARC grant, the team had taken on the challenge of reciprocating its program in other rural school districts, similar to ours through Central Appalachia. GACO students, parents, and members are proud and honored to represent Garrett County and Garrett County Public School. Thank you. We have several certificates today, and I'll let Katie read the names and I'll present them to you. Noah Aiken. Lauren Dorado.
Oh, seniors.
Do you want me to keep going? Yes.
Sarah.
Sarah Smith.
No.
Jessica Stork. Atlee Wise.
Did you plan this, that the whole first?
These are all of our seniors.
I'm just kidding.
This is the last day of school.
Yeah, I'm well aware of that.
Right.
Yay. Katie, can you?
Will Gearhart.
No?
Taylor Blockfelty. Evan Lewis. Will Mayer. Parker Meyer.
Nope.
Cheyenne Rucker. Todd Reddingberg.
No.
Ryan Harvey.
No.
Jalen Beeman. Caleb Frazee. Jacob Green. Matthew Hoover. Logan Mason. Olivia Warren. Sarah Manley. Jeremy Ferrando. Chase Bender. Jasmine Beitzel. Chase Taylor. Owen Seeley. Ava Rankin. Kristen Massey. Roger Dixon. Kelly Catuli. Dylan Kuba. Une Rodeheber. No, we have.
Who doesn't have?
Yes. Titus Feitzel.
No.
These are mentions, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Sophia Moss.
Oh, okay. Sophia Moss.
Tammy. Does she have the, just call those out. Okay.
Tammy Beitzel.
Tights.
Titus Feitzel. Lori Murdoch. Sandy Dorado. Larry Friend. Cheryl Nagy. Josh Heimbaugh. Lindsay Kreischer. Zachary Kreischer. Bill Malone.
Yep.
Larry Molinax. Jeremy Brando. Nancy Savage.
She said she was coming, but
She
I
had to take her mother somewhere, so
Oh.
she's texting quick help.
Josh Smith.
Yeah.
Chuck Trotman. Pam Trotman.
Student mentor.
Zachary Trotman.
Okay. Bill, are you an official mentor? Because we don't have a.
No.
Would you like a?
He's a parent.
He's a parent.
They just, okay.
They
Not
just,
just
I'm a supporter.
Okay.
They forgot to mention somebody.
Okay.
Can you go out?
Oh, yeah.
And you've probably hurt his feelings.
Oh, no.
No, Michael.
We didn't hurt his feelings.
Well, maybe it's me.
We have no power to get him in here.
This is our 15th year, and every year since we are a Northern Southern combination team, our first year we tried to find a name that was appropriate that represented all of Garrett County. So the young ladies there that are driving the robot aren't our regular drivers. I think
Protect the drywall.
Protect the walls.
Yeah, bad. Well, just don't get going so fast that it goes on the windows. The walls are secondary.
I'm right
I see.
Chuck, can I tell the story of the Greater Cumberland Committee while we're waiting for?
Absolutely.
I was just telling Dr. Paw that on one day last week, the team was recognized at the Greater Cumberland Committee meeting, and Senator was there, Senator Trone, there were mayors, and Katie and several, I think Cheyenne and several other students took the microphone and talked all about their program as if they were just talking to a couple of elementary students, and I was really proud of them. They did a fantastic job, and you should have seen how impressed all the people there were, weren't they? I mean, they could not stop talking about it, so they did a wonderful job. I think I hear him coming.
And even though we brought Meshach with us, what our team is really about, our vision, is covering the kids. So the picture there with Katie, with the young man, who's one of our top students at one of our events, that is what we are really about. I think Meshach, we're sorry, I'm sorry for not doing So, there he is.
Uh-oh.
Okay, he played a game by picking up a ball, so they, see if
I just don't want to.
can we do this, guys, from out there?
Uh-huh.
I'm going to do that.
Just.
Put the ball down. Just put it in. She said this man. Kelly, she can't see.
There we go.
There we go.
The young ladies driving are our regular drivers. There are seniors and 50 minutes today.
They also are around the corner.
Yeah, she can't even see.
Can we go all the way up? All the way up. Good thing.
Okay, let her go. They're going to put in the throw that ball.
I move your cup.
I emptied the cup.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
Okay, Bart, Dr. Baker's ready.
You should have had that one. Don't break. Thanks. Don't break our microphone.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
I always have to.
Oh, wait, check here.
Yeah, Misha, yeah. Show off. Jim, where would be best? Just right around him?
While we're lining up for pictures, I do want to say, I'd be remiss in saying that I have lots of parents here today, and I'm very grateful for our parents. The program would not be possible if it weren't for our parents and the support we get from our community. So I did want to say that.
To see him in Worlds was amazing. To watch how the other teams would come up to them from around the world, their notoriety and their sportsmanship was really unbelievable. You saw teammates from around the world, and it was, they would come up and talk to them, and they would trade parts, and it was amazing to watch them be competitive, but still help each other. And it was, you were very proud of them.
It's amazing to watch. I sent Chuck a thing from the Parkersburg newspaper yesterday that West Virginia University's robotics team won the United States Championship over the weekend. They beat MIT, Virginia Tech, and Northwestern.
But it was a coal mining scenario, so they had to beat.
Yeah, it was a drilling
Thank you,
thing.
guys.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Drilling
Did
on the moon.
Monica give you the
What
ones?
it would be,
Did you
trying
give
to
her
get
the ones?
water out
Oh,
of-
okay.
from the moon.
Good.
The
Thank you for
simulation,
coming.
If they were on the moon, how would they extract water from underneath the surface?
I didn't want to overstep.
That were good because you have to look at the next part of them. And so I thought, evidently, I think he wants to stay.
You have to travel.
Oh, it's well known. Well known.
Hey, Bill, that's a mighty nice looking son you have there.
Except
Yes.
his mother. Thank God.
Oh, I don't know.
See you guys.
All right, so that was probably the most fun we'll have this. Oh, but Dr. Miller's coming up, so that'll be exciting. All right, we're gonna go back to the, and we're gonna go to the moment of silence. So if you are able to please stand. We'll ask Katie, our student board member, to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next item is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Woods. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Siebold. Any discussion?
I would ask to remove the Southern Middle School principal from the consent agenda.
Okay. We'll have to get to the consent agenda first.
Sorry, I'm ahead.
But is there a motion to approve the, so we have the motion. Okay, discussion. I lost my train of thought. All those in favor of the motion to approve the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, the consent agenda.
Okay.
Is there okay, on the consent agenda, are there agreement on all the items, or is there anything that would like to be removed?
Remove the Southern Middle School principal.
Okay. So we will approve the consent agenda minus the Southern Middle School principal. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Rinker. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Siebold. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. It is approved. Now, is there a motion to approve the agenda with an additional item? That would be the SMS principal, and we'll put it as the next item after the consent agenda. This is a motion to amend the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Tom.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor of amending the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, the agenda is amended. Now, we'll pick up the SMS Southern Middle School principal. Is there a motion to approve the recommendation for the SMS principal?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Woods. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gladfelty. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
I heard one nay. Is there?
So I guess I would be nay on Lincoln also, yes.
Okay, 2. So I will vote in favor of the motion, so that the motion is approved 3-2. So that position is approved. Next, we'll move to the approval of the public session minutes for May 14th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those?
Yes, I had a question. On May the 14th. Under our new business, number 5, the last sentence, the request was to transfer $43,400 from pupil services salary and wages to administration contracted services. That is for a comprehensive strategic facilities plan, correct?
I'm sorry, what page are you on?
Well, it began at 5, new business.
Okay. Item A.
Yes, item A.
I think the category area, Mrs. Schweitzer.
Well, my question was, could we just add a little description of what it was for? That was
Yeah,
just
we can add
wording
we can
at
add
the
a
end.
phrase
That was all.
in addition to that.
Yes.
Yeah. So
That was what
what
I
is the
was-
phrase you want added?
Well, just to say, I don't know what you want, comprehensive strategic facilities plan, or,
So just at the end of the sentence,
yes,
add
just to
for
describe what it was for.
the
if we ever go back
comprehend
and
or the
reference.
strategic facilities plan.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I would like to have added.
We're good.
You're okay. Thanks.
New business.
All right. With that change, any other changes? Motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Siebold. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Stringer. Any further discussion or changes? All those in favor of approving the May 14th public session minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
As amended.
Aye. Those opposed? No one opposed. Okay. Next, we'll move to the June 4th meeting minutes. Any additions or corrections? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Woods. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gladfelty. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The minutes for June 4th are approved. Now we'll have reading time. Closed session summaries.
Thank you. Closed session summary. The Board of Education met in executive session on Tuesday, May 14th, 2019 at Central Office in the boardroom at 4:05 p.m. under Authority 3-305 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland to discuss the following items. Review of executive session minutes, personnel topics pursuant to 3-305B1, collective bargaining, negotiation topics pursuant to 3-305B9, investment of public funds pursuant to 3-305B5, legal topics pursuant to 3-305B7, and administrative function topics. Monica Rinker made a motion to close the meeting, and this was seconded by Tom Woods. Thereafter, the board unanimously voted to close the session with a yay vote from Rodney Glatfelty, Monica Rinker, Charlotte Siebold, and Tom Woods. The topics discussed in the closed session included the following. Opening, Dr. Paul opened the meeting at 4:05 p.m. Executive session minutes. The board reviewed the executive session minutes from the April 9th, 2019 meeting. Tom Woods made a motion to accept the minutes as amended, and Charlotte Siebold seconded the motion. The board unanimously voted to approve the motion with a yay vote from Rodney Glatfelty, Monica Rinker, Charlotte Siebold, and Tom Woods. Personnel pursuant to 3-305B1, student member of the board. The board discussed the applicant for the student member of the board for the 2019-2020, as well as the alternate member. The board took this matter into consideration and voted on the candidate and the alternate during the public session. Certificated staffing, Dr. Jane Wildison, Director of Human Resources, presented certificated staffing recommendations to the board for approval. The board took this matter into consideration and voted on the recommendations during the public session under the consent agenda. Dr. Wildison also shared the non-certificated employees recently approved by the superintendent. The board discussed reclassification of an employee. The board discussed the superintendent evaluation and scheduled further meetings to discuss the evaluation. Negotiations pursuant to 3-305B9, Dr. Wildison and Mrs. Schweitzer provided an update on negotiations and requested the board approve changes to the Unit 1 and Unit 3 parameters. Tom Woods made a motion to change the parameters. Monica Rinker seconded the motion. The board unanimously approved the motion with a yea vote from Rodney Glotfeldy, Charlotte Siebold, Monica Rinker, and Tom Woods. Investment of public funds pursuant to 3-305B5. Mrs. Allison Schweitzer, Director of Finance, recommended the board pre-fund the other post-employment benefits OPEB trust. She will provide further information at the June 11th, 2019 board meeting for possible approval and action. Mr. Woods recused himself from the discussions and any further future actions as he is a retired GCPS employee. The board took this matter into consideration but did not take any action on the update. Legal topics pursuant to 3-305B7, potential breach of a warranty claim regarding repair at a school. Mr. Hoover provided an update on this matter. The board took this matter into consideration but did not take any action on the update. Update on pending litigation. Mr. Hoover provided an update on a pending lawsuit that has been filed against a bus driver. The board took this matter into consideration but did not take any action on the update. Administrative function. Ms. Barbara Baker, Superintendent, discussed 2 administrative function topics with the board. The board took these matters into consideration but took no action. Recess. The board recessed the meeting at 6:05 p.m. to go back into public session. The board returned to the executive session at 9:16 p.m. Monica Rinker made a motion to adjourn the executive session and Charlotte Siebold seconded the motion. The board unanimously approved adjourning the executive session at 10:11 p.m. with a yea vote from Rodney Glotfeldy, Charlotte Siebold, Monica Rinker, and Tom Woods. Board members present included Dr. Matthew Paugh, Board President, Mr. Tom Woods, Board Vice President, and board members Mr. Rodney Glotfeldy, Mrs. Monica Rinker, and Mrs. Charlotte Siebold. Mr. Brandon Hoover, Board Attorney, was also in attendance for part of the meeting. Mrs. Barbara Baker, Superintendent, Mrs. Karen DeVore, Executive Director of Curriculum, Instruction Administration, Dr. Jane Wildison, Director of Human Resources, Mrs. Allison Schweitzer, Director of Finance, and Ms. Karen Brewer, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent, attended part of the meeting. June 4th, 2019, closed session summary. The Board of Education met an executive session on Tuesday, June 4th, 2019 at 1209 Youghiogheny Drive in Mountain Lake Park at 1:01 p.m. under authority -3-305 of the General Provisions article of the Annotated Code of Maryland to discuss the following item, personnel topic pursuant to 3-305B1. Tom Woods made a motion to close the meeting, and this was seconded by Monica Rinker. Thereafter, the board unanimously voted to close the session with a yea vote from Rodney Glotfeldy, Monica Rinker, Charlotte Siebold, and Tom Woods. The topics discussed and the action taken include the following. The board discussed the superintendent evaluation. Adjournment. Charlotte Siebold made a motion to adjourn the executive session, and Tom Woods seconded the motion. The board unanimously approved adjourning the executive session at 3:01 p.m. with a yea vote from Rodney Glotfeldy, Charlotte Siebold, Monica Rinker, and Tom Woods. Board members present included Dr. Matthew Paugh, Board President, Mr. Tom Woods, Vice President, board members Mr. Rodney Glotfeldy, Mrs. Monica Rinker, and Mrs. Charlotte Siebold.
All right, and announcements.
Okay, announcements. So today, as you may well know, was the last day of school for students. They were dismissed 3 hours early. Tomorrow is the last day for teachers. June 19th, there will be a May board service on the Open Meetings Act in Annapolis. July 4th, which will be here before we know it, 4th of July holiday, all schools and offices will be closed. And October 2nd through 4th will be the May annual conference this year in Annapolis, Maryland. And that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Baker.
Thank you.
We'll now move to public comment. Is there anyone signed up for the public comment? Thank you. No? Okay, thank you for checking. All right, with no public comment, we'll move to the curriculum instruction and administration report with the Southern Garrett High School presentation.
So this evening, we do have for you Southern Garrett High School. I just want to, I know all of you know her, but I want to introduce Dr. Nicole Miller to you this evening. She has really immersed herself in Southern Garrett High School this year. She has become a Ram in no time flat. Her new wardrobe is all red, and you will notice she will be using the same template that I have just, I found a template when I started the CIA report, and it caught my eye, I used it, and I've just been using that blank template and handing it out to, or, sharing it with every principal and saying, use this template for your presentation to the board. Well, lo and behold, when I got Dr. Miller's back from her today, she had taken liberties with the color scheme on my template, and evidently it had Husky Blue as the outline, and she changed it to Ram Red. So, Dr. Miller.
Thank you. It's certainly my pleasure to stand here and talk about Southern Garrett High School. I appreciate the opportunity to be there this year. It's been a remarkable experience, and the community has been really great to work with, and they've welcomed me in all ways. And so it has been a privilege and a blessing. I did bring some people with me over here off to the side that they're going to be helping us with the presentation. There's a lot for Southern High School and the community to be proud of. There's a lot of great things happening. We're only going to share a smidgen of what we do because I'm on a time constraint. So I've got to stop at some point. But I did bring some people with me to help share. These are some of our students and one former student. We have Jocelyn, Teresa, Jay, Braden, and Laura is a recent graduate as of a couple Saturdays ago, so congratulations. Yes, yeah. Well, these are some of our students that are engaged heavily in our performing arts program. And one of the first programs that we're going to highlight tonight is our performing arts. So Jocelyn and Teresa are going to talk a little bit about our music program, and then the other three will talk about theater, and we have some pictures to play as well. The video, Miss White helped us with, so I want to give her credit, and of course Mr. Shaw helped with the pictures for the music program. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to these young ladies, and they'll let you know when to start the video.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Teresa Wolf. I'm a member of the Southern Garrett Marching Band. Last year in the 2018 season, I played the baritone, and this year I'll be playing the tuba.
And my name is Jocelyn Fetlock. I play the baritone and I'm the baseline section leader. And we are here to represent the Southern Garrett Marching Band.
Last year, our show for the Southern Garrett Marching Band, marching band part anyway, not the concert band, it was themed Game On.
It included themes from Tetris, Pinball Wizard, Zelda, Pac-Man, and Mario.
This is a picture of our full band under the direction of Jason Shaw, Richard Clever, Marty Teresa Weeks, and Blair Glass.
Every year, we play at the Memorial Day Parade and ceremony to honor our fallen veterans, and our WINS captain, Allison Fitzwater, plays pats.
Every year, the band goes on a recruitment trip to encourage young musicians to join the music program and marching band.
This past year, 3 of our students, Joe Louie, Une Rodeheaver, and Tony Teets, were selected to play in the WVU Honor Band.
In our off season, we bring music to the stands with Pep Band. And if you go there, Joe Louie always gets the crowd excited with his snare solo performer brand.
We do several different parades throughout the county, including the Kids Miller Days Parade. It's a good way to gain support from the community and add a little extra flair to our local parades.
Real work begins at band camp, where we put our music onto the field with marching for the first time.
We travel throughout the region to perform our field show in front of audiences and judges for a competition.
It's very inspiring to watch the larger bands play, and it makes us want to get better so that we can get on their level.
And there's a group picture from the very end of band camp. It finally came to an end after a long week of hard work and lasting memories.
All of our competitors on the field, the Northern and Southern bands joined together for the parade.
Every year we go to Atlantic Coast Championships to compete against the other Class 1A bands. This past year we made Southern Garrett history by scoring 6th place with a score of 89.87.
And this year the band had the wonderful opportunity to travel to Disneyland and play down Main Street, USA.
We had the privilege of leading the Festival of Fantasy Parade in the Magic Kingdom to make everlasting.
That's running into they'll be fun.
We made everlasting memories, but we could not have done it without the help of our community.
Thank you very much. Awesome.
Thank you.
Right into theater. Who's first? Okay.
I'm Braden Mornick.
I'm Laura Frederick.
I'm Jay Miller.
At Southern High School, we do 3 productions a year, usually 2 to 3 musicals or a talent show when we do 2 musicals. This year, our first musical we did was Newsies. It was about the Newsboy Union strike of 1899, which was led by the protagonist, Jack Kelly.
The second production that we did was a musical called Little Shop of Horrors, in which an evil plant works its way into a flower shop on Skid Row, and then eventually takes the protagonist, his name is Seymour, and turns his good intentions into bad actions, spreading little clippings of the plant to dominate the world all across.
And then our third production, as some of you may know, was Mamma Mia, and it's about a young woman named Sophie who's having a wedding, but she doesn't know who her dad is, and she has 3 possible outcomes, and she invites all of them to her wedding, and it's just a disco roll adventure. And then we create all of our set. We stay after school multiple hours at a time practicing and rehearsing. And the costumes actually from Super Trooper in Mamma Mia were paid and given to us by a New York company.
It was very exciting when we got that news. It was something that you never really think is going to happen. And we designed the costumes ourselves, we designed the set ourselves, and a lot of what you see is from the minds of the students and the teachers all put together. The cost, however, is a lot higher than you would probably think. I know that I wasn't aware of the cost when I first got into theater, and the cost of one season, which would be 1 year, would be around $20,000 to $25,000. And that takes a lot of fundraising, a lot of hard work from the kids.
Many of the fundraisers that we do are done by all the kids in the class. One of the fundraisers we do is Playbill ads. We go to different companies around Garrett County, and we sell Playbill ads to them, and they can advertise their businesses in the playbills that we hand out during the performances. Another fundraiser that we do is the Haunted Hayride at Broadford Park. We do it around Halloween in October, and it's a fun activity for families to come out to and do, and it's put on by all the kids.
But this theater class isn't just a class for its students. This theater class is a place where they come together, and at first might be strangers, but after maybe 2 weeks, you're already friends with everyone in that class. And after the season is over, you have gained an entire family. And I mean this on every sense of that word, because I know that the last night of a show, people cry because the emotions are so high, and you've had so much fun and hard work has been put into it that you never want it to end. And you hear that so often, and I can truly attest to the fact that this class has changed mine and many students' lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had the privilege, too, of playing with these 2 fine baritone players. We sometimes sat next to each other, and sometimes they let me steal their music for Pep Band, but that was a lot of fun. I look forward to that next year. All right, that's not the beginning. So just a couple other areas that we wanted to highlight. Again, I'm quite certain that I'm not going to be able to highlight everything great going on at Southern High School, but we tried to give a little piece of what we do. So we wanted to make sure, I certainly would be remiss if I did not highlight our sports program. We had a really wonderful year, and I wanted to make sure that we highlighted the historic run that our boys basketball team had this winter. It was quite an amazing feat to get to state runner-up and play in that final championship game. And I just remember, and I said this at the SGAA banquet as well, when I turned around and I saw the sea of red and the amount of community support that really traveled quite a distance to be there for our kids was quite remarkable. We also had our bocce team get to the district finalists, which was a great feat for them. And then, of course, our wrestling team, 2-year consecutive state champs, and our track, oh, I have a typo there, SGHS track got gold for their state finals, which was a recent accomplishment that occurred. This winter, during the winter season, Mr. Ringer worked with Dr. McCauley and Crellin to do a Rams read. I think she might have mentioned it at some point in one of our meetings, but I wanted to highlight it as well because I do think it was mutually beneficial. Our student athletes got a ton out of that. I remember Mr. Redinger coming back and the kids had signatures on their shirts and they just really had a good time spreading just the love of reading and that of an athlete, you know, the love of being an athlete and what that means at the high school level. So that was really exciting, and those are just some of the pictures of that. We also this year were roped into partnering with the Army. They came to our school district and wanted to partner with us about this fitness challenge, and we gladly agreed. And it's Allegheny and Garrett County participated in this partnership where we kind of competed for the most fit school in Western Maryland. And basically what it consisted of, we had 2 teams. Our school came up with 2 teams of 16 kids, 4 students from each grade, 2 boys and 2 girls. They had to do a variety of athletic fitness stuff like sit-ups and push-ups and running and squats and all of that stuff. And they had a time that they had to meet. And the school with the best time was awarded most fit in Western Maryland, and Southern Garrett High School got that. In fact, both of our teams actually had the top 2 times for that event. So that was exciting. Our kids worked hard on that. Every year, Ms. Schaefer has been working with this program. It's Model United Nations. There's a conference that occurs in Frostburg, and the kids go there and they learn about the real United Nations and how the United Nations Security Council works. And they also are able to put into practice public speaking. They learn about parliamentary procedure, thinking on their feet, compromise, and such. And what they end up doing is they research a nation and they determine how that nation operates. And then they use that knowledge to basically determine how those countries would become allies of each other, or if they would be willing to be allies, how that country might vote on certain things, as well as how their country might be willing to fix real world problems. So the 2 fellows on the left, Danny Nickel and Zach Robal, their country was Egypt, and they were recognized as outstanding delegates. And the group on the right, Will Mayer, Tad Rodeheaver, and Parker Meyer, their country was Iran, and they also were recognized. So that's a fun event that we do every year. And many of you, I mean, you just saw the results of a lot of our computer science at the county level, but Ms. Kreischer and Mr. Troutline oversee our computer science pathway in our CTE program, and their program and the students were recognized for increasing females in that area. That's a male-dominated area, and so we're looking at closing the gender gap and progressing more females into that. They were actually one of 685 schools out of 18,000 that were getting to that point of gender equality when it comes to getting a balance of males and females in that area. So that was good. And then finally tonight, we'll talk about Skills USA. That's a program that our students have an opportunity to participate in through our CTE programs and our trades programs. And we had 3 students go to states. I actually traveled down there with them on this particular event. It was quite an experience to walk into the technical school that they were in and to see all of the masonry and the buildings and the welding, and it was just huge scale. If you ever get a chance to do it, it's on a big scale. And certainly eye-opening for these students. And we have Wesley Dixon in the middle. He won first place for welding at states, and he'll be representing our school at nationals over the summer for that. And then Abigail McCroby on the right, she was 3rd in cabinet making, And she made Southern Garrett High School history because she was the first student to be elected as the Skills USA Western Region Vice President for next school year. So that was a great accomplishment for her. And then Devin West, he got second place in cabinet building. So that's an excellent program that we're working on growing as well. And although there's much more that I could share, I'm not in time constraints.
Yes, thank you.
That's a testimony. They came in the last day of school.
I know you know this, but you have two truly gifted, amazing teachers in your music and your theater program. Now, I'm sure you know that, but from a person who's been around a long time, you really do have two excellent teachers.
She was.
Oh, awesome. Oh, I can't wait for Footloose.
You're excited.
I know, I love Footloose.
Yeah, it's called How You Wish. And it's a star themed show. A star themed show. Star themed. Star Wish.
Understand? They just started getting ready for their season. I've been seeing them on Tuesdays after school practicing, and so it's already gearing up. I know it's like school's out, but the marching band's gearing up to get their show ready. So
You can see the teachers' enthusiasm showing through to the students, their enthusiasm about it.
But also you can see your enthusiasm.
Yes.
You've done a model job this year of moving from an elementary school to a high school. But I know I hear lots of compliments about how involved you are in the school. So congratulations to all of you.
Yes.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dr.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bonnie, I'm sure you hear that all the time, but she looks just like you. She's absolutely lovely.
And now we'll look at school lunches. School meal rate increase. It's that time of the year.
10 cents.
Good evening. This evening I'm here to request, based on the Healthy Hungry Free Kids Act, a 10-cent increase in paid lunch prices for next school year. And for the Maryland Cares for Kids Act, a reduction of the reduced price for breakfast and lunch of 10 cents.
Okay, so do we have any questions for Mr. Germain? Is there a motion to approve the recommendations?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Rinker. Is there a second?
Second.
No, it's Rodney or Tom? I can't hear. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. It is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Special education staffing plan. Ms. Raybold and Ms. Magnus. Dr. Magnus, yes. I went with what's on my thing.
All right. So first, I want to say I have a little boy downstairs that watches this frequently. I promised him on my last night I would say hi on camera to him. Hi, Cam. You better behave down there. I want to introduce you to our new interim director of special education, Dr. Chelsea Mangus. And we are going to be presenting the special education staffing plan for FY20. What we did is, of course, we talked with principals, we met with our team to determine the needs for next school year, and made just minimal changes to our last year's staffing plan. Of course, you know, this could change quickly with students that move in. So it has to be more of a flexible staffing plan. We did not include dedicated assistants. Something that we have really looked at is
For students that have serious medical needs, or mobility issues, that we do provide full-time dedicated assistance. So those were not included in our ratios. Are there any questions that you have regarding the FY20 staffing plan? Yes.
So you just said that they had ones with serious medical issues. What was the other one? They would,
Like sometimes mobility, feeding.
So they would have a dedicated assistant, but it's not on this chart.
Correct.
then?
You'll see where it says like Broadford, for example, has one dedicated assistant.
Right.
So there is one FTE for one student.
Right. Okay.
Before we would have temporary contracts, but that wouldn't cover the whole student day. So something that when I took over, I strongly believed in for the best interest of the students.
I do notice when I look at the chart from last year, to this year, under students receiving academic services, you've added and/or behavioral services.
Correct.
I see you added that wording.
That is correct. Because behavior is, emotional disability, so students with emotional disabilities do receive some sort of counseling service, psychological service, they could.
So have we seen an increase or just to
a
have the
language
wording?
change.
Okay,
Wording
that was
change. I admitted that before, and I felt like it was not representing the entire, not only do special education teachers provide specially designed instruction for academics, we also do behavior. So I think that was missing.
Plus, we brought the
Behavior, correct,
umbrella under special education. STARS and the new GCPS under special ed behavior coaches.
And one more thing I know, it seems like when you look at it, a lot of our numbers some of our numbers, there's a little bit of a decrease.
That is correct. And our special ed center schools are low, and obviously there's a reason for that. So that is where our students with the most significant disabilities usually receive their services. Yes, the state definitely likes to see our numbers.
Since we are doing a lot in the behavioral area, do you think it would be helpful to separate that academic and behavioral? I mean, I know some's going to cross, some's going to be part of both, but looking at this, I don't know, it would help me if I knew that of those 14 kids at accident, that 5 were academic and the other ones were...
Yes, you'll definitely see a crossover. Usually any student that receives behavioral services usually receives academic services too. But we could try to narrow it down a little bit to give you an idea.
Yeah, I think that would be good since we are putting extra people in and all of that to work on the behavior. Not that we don't have people that work on the academics.
Keep in mind, our behavioral coaches serve all students, and I'm just referring to students that receive special education services for it. So it will be a misrepresentation of a behavior coach responsibility, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Because behavior coaches don't provide specially designed instruction for behavior in special ed. Our school psychologists, our school social workers, there's trained staff do, typically.
Okay.
I have one other question. On the sheet that you give us in the back, it says additional staff, where it says infant and toddler staff. Is that where we have, would it be like more for the pre-K?
Nope, we actually are a birth through 21. So we oversee birth through 21, and they provide early intervention services at birth. And we have a staff of 2.5 that provide those services birth to 3. And some, if they're on the extended IFSP, we call it, then they were serviced for 4 years to age 4. So that doesn't include any school age. Then we cross over into what we call Part B, which is school age, and then infant and toddler staff is gone. Not gone, but they are not part of that.
Heather.
Yes.
Could you describe how your services for the 1 to 3 dovetails with what the Healthy Families America staff does at the health department?
Yeah, sure. So we actually receive a lot of referrals from Healthy Families, and then we'll go into the home with Healthy Families a lot of times, and we'll work on coaching the family on how to, provide
mobility, really, like fine motor. So then healthy families will see it in action, will help with the parent when we're not there, and they'll also make sure they get to appointments that they need to get to. Healthy Families really does that. So it really is a huge collaboration with the health department, particularly Healthy Families. They were at our We Care event, and they've been a big referral source for infant and toddlers. They find a lot of the families because they work with the older child, and they help us with our child find in infant and toddlers.
Thanks.
Katie?
Do you have an ideal student to teacher or student to adult ratio?
No, the state of Maryland doesn't have that set.
Have you found which one works?
We are significantly below our colleagues, our states across the state. We're significantly lower than most.
Okay. Thank you.
That was a good question.
Heather, you want to talk a little bit about your Daniel Offit grant that you got for us?
So, really, I had been asked by Mr. Ornstein to, do something with reading disabilities, because Mr. Offit actually had a undiagnosed dyslexia disability. So we had thought a lot about, how we can incorporate the work that Miss Proudfoot, that Miss Proudfoot and Miss Lazlowski was doing in elementary with their literacy program, and how we could expand that. And to be honest with you, from our years at Southern High School, we hadn't had a reading program in a while. So it was something that, we brought Orton 4 years ago, and we've seen success, but we were still missing that secondary piece that, that I'm pretty passionate about. So in collaboration with, some of the wonderful ladies that I get to work with, we decided to take what they've done and stretched it and focus really on our students with dyslexia and really our students with disabilities, because at the high school we tend to be able to provide them tools to be successful in life, but we don't ever teach them how to read again once they leave elementary school. And we felt like if we're really focusing on specially designed instruction and we're really trying to drill down our skill deficits, then we have to have the appropriate programs. So we were just really blessed to be able to be awarded it through the foundation. And thank you for your support. And obviously, Miss Baker and Mrs. DeVore for letting me do things like this. And I really think we have a great plan in place. And Stephanie Wazlowski is going to help see it through. Unfortunately, I won't be able to, but I know it's going to really impact students.
You might mention for those watching how much your grant was.
Well, Allison Schweitzer.
It's not a grant, it's a gift.
Yeah, the donation.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah,
It's a gift.
the donation.
Foundation, right.
The donation through the foundation was $617,000.
200.
Which she harasses me why I didn't just round it, but
625.
I'm a banker's daughter. I don't know. So we're really proud.
Well, the neat thing about that too is it's being funneled through our Garrett County Public Schools Foundation.
Correct. It's the largest one to go through the foundation.
Yes,
We're really proud of, and Miss Schweitzer helped walk me through that, and it's been really awesome. But it takes a huge group. We're going to be able to provide 2 literacy coaches positions. We haven't had reading specialists in the high school, so that's really exciting. But we're able to do that for 3 years, so we can demonstrate growth and hopefully be able then to look at local funds. But it really does. It takes a team effort, and I'm certainly going to miss that team.
We're going to miss you.
Yeah. So anyway, any other questions on the staffing plan? You're in good hands with Dr. Mangus. There's no doubt.
Is there a motion to approve the 2019-20 special education staffing plan?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Glepfeld. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Siebold. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. It is approved. Thank you for that. And we'll move to the physical and occupational therapy RFP.
Okay, so we sent the RFP out on the notice for request for proposals on May 21st. Last year, if you recall, we only received one proposal back, and it was with our the current contract of school therapy services. This year, we actually received an additional one. So we received two. After the committee completed the rubric of looking at the responsiveness, the qualifications and expertise, the quality of services, and the cost, we are recommending to the board to enter into a 12-month contract with school therapy in Cumberland for the 2019-20 school year.
Okay, the recommendation is to award the RFP to School Therapy Cumberland. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Woods. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Drinker. Further discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
It is.
Before you leave,
Absolutely.
I had the great pleasure, how many years ago? 15 years ago, to watch this young lady walk into my office with all of her Penn State stuff on, interviewing for a job, and I had the great fortune, of hiring her. And she was a godsend to Southern High School. As a principal, I don't know what I would have done without her, because she was able to keep us on the right track. And I know she's been a godsend over here. So Heather, we're on behalf of a grateful ex-principal, thank you so much, but I'm sure on behalf of all of us, done an incredible job.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll miss you guys too. Thank you for believing in me. I'll see you this way.
Thank you both. All right, we're on to our student handbook for 2019-2020. Dr. Weaver.
Good evening. Every year we go through and review our student handbook. This is brought to you just for information and will come back in July before printing for final approval. Other than changing some names and dates, the only change was adding under discipline on page 29. It was requested that we add just some information about multi-tiered systems of support in our PBIS program, Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports Program, along with the response intervention that we're used to address behavior and how we're working with that to address behavior and discipline. So I did add a paragraph right under the disciplinary measures heading to address that. Other than that, there were no other changes, again, other than names and dates. Questions?
I do. When you read the paragraph and there are questions, it says school-wide information system, SWIS, to collect and analyze specific discipline data. Are we already using that?
3 schools this year used that. It's aligned with positive behavior intervention and supports to help track school discipline. So 3 schools piloted that this year, and we're looking at next year having it available to all the schools. It is a very detailed way of tracking discipline. It does take a little time to enter that because there's still sometimes discipline has to be entered into Power School. But once it's in there, the ability to analyze discipline in terms of what's the most frequent discipline, where is it happening, and the time of day, it's very specific, and it really allows you to analyze school-wide behavior discipline.
So would the teachers or whoever would be the one putting it in, or secretary?
Principal or assistant principal.
Okay.
Or behavior support might.
But you plan to have that on site at each of the schools?
Right.
And we'll be able to extract that data next year?
Exactly.
Great.
We did it with the 3 schools who are kind of in the front lane as far as PBIS, Middle, Grantsville, and Rochford. Those are the 3 that had the most experience. So we decided to pilot it there. And we met with the key people at those schools because it is a little bit more work. And we wanted to make sure, we didn't want to just roll it out to all schools and say, here it is, get it done. So we wanted to, and we followed those 3 schools closely, and they have been very positive about the amount of the type of data. So at Northern Middle School, we have Mr. Stevens putting it in. At Grantsville, we have the behavior coach, I think, or the principal. I'm not sure who's putting it in there. And then the administrators at Broadford. Broadford being the largest school, they have a lot more data than the others.
Well, the data would be incredible to know.
It is phenomenal.
Because there's got to be some trends there that you can extract right away.
Exactly. And then school-wide, you can address that and see that. And yeah, they're very pleased with it.
They've been very positive about it, even though it requires for you to enter it into, you enter it into Power School one way, and then you enter it into Swiss a different way.
And you can look at grade levels, you can look at areas of the building, time of the day.
Right, sure.
It's just, yeah.
Individual students, individual teachers.
Right, yeah.
Individual grades, if there are multi-grades.
Great information.
So I'm sure in the future, it'll come to us so we can review it.
You'd like to see a presentation on Swiss on the kind of data?
Yeah, we'd love to, just to see how it's going to,
that would be
that's going to be entered.
Well, even the results.
Yeah, the results.
That's more important, the results.
Yeah, that would be good in planning next year's budget, as far as whether we, if we need to make additions.
Well, I wrote it into the Title IV grant this year, so it's going to be paid for out in Title IV, the program itself.
For the schools that don't already have it, or the ones that's already?
All schools. I wrote it in for all schools. We're talking about the possibility of maybe, then there's another app that goes along with that. It's called Check In, Check Out, that also goes along with PBIS. So we're talking about possibly the really time. I want to meet with the principals. I had the principals give a presentation at ANS about it initially, but now that they've used it for a whole year, we want them to come back and kind of share it with the rest of the principals as to what they really got out of it. There's a possibility that maybe a couple of the really tiny schools won't need it based on the, their low incidence of discipline. So it may not be all 12. I'm going to talk to principals about that.
The 3 schools that are sort of advanced with PBIS are under what's called a Tier 2 PBIS. That they check in, check out is one of the strategies that they learn to do at Tier 2 level. And we're hoping to have more schools then trained in it as they implement the PBIS program and more proficient with it.
We have that going at Grantsville now and Broadford, or just
right?
Grantsville and Broadford.
And Northern Middle's also a Tier 2. Yeah, all 3 were doing check in, check out. Yeah, we had training last February, I believe it was, in that. And as you were, Mrs. Rinker, mentioning the data, when the teams meet, PBIS teams, then they all have that data to discuss, and as a team determine what they want to focus on with their program.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Lover. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to the Educational Facilities Master Plan.
Okay, I have Educational Facilities Master Plan for your consideration this evening. Any questions?
I had a couple.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's actually page 1. It says goals, standards, and guidelines impacting school facilities. The last paragraph, we've have some things on there added. It says Northern High School had a full-time machine tool program, then it goes on. I think it'd be nice if we put on there Project Lead the Way, the biomedical science, that we have the graduation for the last 2 years. I think that's pretty important. We have a lot of students. I'm not sure what year, Ms. Baker probably have to give it. I would like to see that added on there. That would be one thing, I think.
Where do you want it out of that?
Well, we could just do it at the very end, because you know what I mean? The last,
It describes
the very last sentence, the last paragraph. Yeah.
Right, because it does impact the school facilities, because there were changes.
Yeah, I'm looking at the one.
That one is different.
Yeah, it would be
As
right
far
at
as
the end
here
of
it
this
is.
part.
Okay, that's why I was on the bottom of the other.
Oh, I'm going by.
Right.
Okay,
The one from last month.
so you have where it is?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a recommended amendment.
On Appendix H, page 93, I think it is. You might want to put an asterisk for that. It shows 9/30/18 enrollment as being 3842. That includes pre-K. Because without pre-K, I think it's 3662. I think there's 180 pre-K students as I looked at the different charts. It became confusing to me, I guess, is why I'm saying. In my mind, I know we got 3,662 kids without pre-K. And all of a sudden I go to this chart, we have 3,842 kids. So where did they come from? So there might be just would explain to somebody, this does include pre-K kids in this number. Does that make sense?
Yeah, do you want to include the pre-K in this number or not?
You did include, I mean.
We did,
You
yeah,
did.
but do you want to keep it
I
like
think
that,
just
or-
putting an asterisk is
Yeah, I just think just put the asterisk saying that that does include
And then
pre-K
put
kids.
pre-K underneath.
Yeah,
Okay.
just so that somebody reading that would wonder where those 140 kids came from.
Because that'll tie in
Kids.
with all the individual school
Right.
charts then.
Right, it will.
Okay.
No, I understand that there's a waiting list for pre-K in some schools. Does that factor into this at all, this number? The waiting list, I mean, how do you determine when another class of pre-K gets put into place?
Well, there's a criteria that we go by, and they are ranked when when the applications come in. And then we look at where we're able to provide space and where we're able to provide an additional program and make the decision that way. Many years we're able to get pre-K expansion grants and things like that really help us. But it does impact this because, it could depend on whether we have 3 pre-K classrooms or 1. And we do save up some spots, and I don't know, without looking, Mr. Proudfoot, if you know that right off the top of your head, but we hold out some spots because for what we call ones, or must provide, then we wait for anybody that registers over the summer so that we ensure that all of the ones that we must provide have a space. And sometimes they also get a space, but it might not be in their home school either for pre-K, so it's a little different than kindergarten.
Yeah, well, that's exactly how we determine who's on the waiting list and when we implement another class or when we.
Right, there's a criteria that they go by when they're reviewing the application.
So if all of a sudden there is another class that we determine that we can put at a school, that should be accounted for in the facilities plan too.
Okay.
So how you do that.
I'll have to think that one
In the
through.
one that we, excuse me.
But it's a potential.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true, and I think that I know that money was held back because, and then we did end up getting the monies.
Last year.
Yes, for saying that all kids can go to pre-K.
Right, that we provided a seat for everyone.
Right. So-
Full day as well.
Right. So, but we're not doing that, right? I mean, we're not able to do that with the facilities that we have now, maybe in some places. Are we offering them other schools to go to or whatever? Because like you said, that's going to lead to them going to school there more than likely.
It can. And some of the pre-K expansion grants this year were for encouraging districts that have half-day pre-K to go to full-day pre-K. And since we already have full-day pre-K, we were kind of dinged or on that particular one as far as the expansion grants. But we do take all of those things into consideration, where we have space, how many applications we have, how many are on the waiting list, how many are in the 1, 2, or 3 criteria. So we take all of those things into consideration when we decide whether we're going to add another pre-K. But we make sure that everyone that would like a space generally has one. It might be in a different school, but they all have a space generally.
I need to talk to you about that, or we need to talk about that a little bit more, because right now I understand that you have a certain criteria for children that have to be in pre-K, and then the waiting list is basically the ones that are incomes are a little bit higher. Is that right?
It can be. There's other criteria that are not income-based, but that is the main criteria, yes. And that did, years and years ago, when it was first come, first serve, you weren't competing with Head Start, which is also an income-based program. And when they changed it to an income-based program, we did get a lot of upset families, because now we have 2 programs that are both income-based, but we do follow the state guidelines on the how we rank them.
It seems between Head Start and pre-K, every eligible child should be able to have a place somewhere. I don't know how we can ensure that happens.
I agree.
I think we really have to work on it.
I think we are very much working on it.
We're watching the numbers all the time.
At least weekly.
Constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Because I get asked that.
Oh, I'm sure. Yes, it's
why is my kid on the waiting list? This is when it really...
Yes, but we have in the past, for a lot of folks that have been on the waiting list, have been able to provide pre-K.
Thank you. I don't know how that... how you put another classroom in place, but I'm sure you'll find a way.
And space.
In the space.
So my question,
Good.
my question was on page 66, which is the student projections that we've been talking about, and that we're also using in the facilities plan. And I noticed, I compared the state projected from last year to this year. And it went up considerably, what the state is projecting. And I think in this book, and also in the facilities information, it is being said that that we're holding our, but we are, I think if we look, and we had talked about this earlier, if we looked at the projections, we're actually 2019, from my math, is like 40 kids they're saying that we'll come up with. 20 is 50 kids, 21 is 80 kids. The comparison, they've raised the projection over last year. I took last year's and compared it to what the projections, the new paper of this year. So I think we need to keep that in mind. It doesn't go down until 2025. They're talking about, it starts like 10, 20, 10 kids, 20 kids, nothing like, 100 kids, like, we had a couple of years of losing. So I think we do need to put that into our information, with the information that there's, that the projections are now showing this type of increase.
I agree. It just shows how the projections sometimes aren't that accurate.
Well, they told us they were pretty accurate when they were showing us.
Oh, I know.
When we were going down, so let's hope this is.
It's like the weather. You never know what's going to happen until the day it happens.
It said on Appendix C, page 84, that we have 4 non-public schools. What are those 4 non-public schools that we have?
I don't have that information. I'd have to get back to you on
Yeah,
that. I'm not sure. We got this information, I think, from the county.
Yeah. I just
to update most of the information on this page.
Any of you, can you?
Currently, we only have 2.
Yeah.
And they're all Christian.
Right.
Schools. I couldn't tell you the names of them. What, I want to say Brethren, one of them. I'm not positive. I'd be misspeaking, but I do know we only have 2 because that was what we had to do for Title I. We have to offer funding for them.
Right.
And they do not choose them.
Yeah. Yeah, when I saw that, I couldn't think of 4 schools. I just couldn't. Used to be.
We will get that information to you, exactly.
Yeah, it just might be a
Yeah.
We'll let you know.
clerical error.
We will get that to you.
Correct, from the county.
And then I heard that the Seventh-day Adventist Church was done by her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On page 93, it says a comparison of state-rated capacity and student enrollment. It lists a school when it says state-rated capacity. That is what the school's capacity is according to state, the size of it, and the kids in this school. Is that right?
Yeah, there's guidelines that they use for a school. We collect all the data and then we submit it to the state, and they have formulas as far as how many students can be in a special education place, what age the kids are, the size of the classrooms and things, and then they'll come back to us after they run that analysis, and they'll let us know what the capacity is for that school. So what we do is we just supply the data. We measured every classroom. I'm sorry.
Well, the reason I'm asking, that's what I thought it was, what you're saying. But when I forgot to bring a book. When I looked at the book from last year, some of the numbers were different. Like,
Yeah, we just did all new state rated capacity
but
for
I mean,
every school.
some of them there's a significant number. Like Northern High, last year we had 701. Now it says that our capacity is 903. Southern High was 819. Now it's 1450.
This was a whole state initiative. It wasn't just Garrett County.
Like that's a big.
What made us have more capacity? What did they change that?
The guidelines may have been different. This was done like 20 years ago was the last time it was done, or even maybe longer than that. So I don't know what the guidelines they used then, but the guidelines we use today is we went in, we measured every room in every school, and we submitted that information, and this is what they came back to us with the current guidelines.
Well, maybe how they switched it, we don't know, but if you could give us the guide, I'm just kind of curious because it's saying that our school system here in Garrett County can hold 1,203 more students. That's a big difference. Like, I knew that it was coming from the state, not you, but I'm curious if you could get what's changed, like why they're saying we can
I can
hold more
supply you with
students.
the guidelines that they use.
Okay.
You know,
I would
minimum
like to
size
see
of the
that.
classroom is 500 square feet in a high school or secondary school. And, you know, then they look at things like, you know, art and music rooms. Are they used 50% of the time for classroom instruction? They look at gymnasiums. They count gymnasiums in some cases. Quite a few different criteria they use to come up with this. And like I said, this hasn't been updated for years.
Right. No, I
So-
right. But I just noticed that's a big number. I've never seen that much of a difference.
Well, if we didn't add space, it must have been the criteria change.
Yeah.
So it's sort of unfair to design a school one way 20 years ago and then all of a sudden change the guidelines. So now you can have, because it's going to have an impact when they look at the future funding for the state, particularly facilities.
Well, especially when you look at a school like using Southern as an example, with 700 students and 1,400 capacity, we're at 50% capacity. When anybody who's ever worked there or been in there knows that there's no way under the sun you can put 1,450 kids in that school, ever. Let's just stack them on top of each other because of the way the school has now been constructed. So, I mean, the way it's built. You know, there aren't that many classrooms to do that many kids.
So maybe we just need to put a statement in there that the criteria has changed in determining capacity from what it was even 10 years ago. The school didn't change, but the criteria changed.
Right. Yeah. That's got to be what happened.
And like we said, like Allison said, this is a statewide initiative. This is comparing every school in the state exactly the same. So, you know, it is what it is.
Oh, I realize that, but it just really, changes our numbers a lot from what we're used to, like.
Well, yeah, when they start talking about school consolidation, and everything, they say you got all this excess capacity, and so you're gonna have to close schools. And if you don't have, if that's not true, then we need to somehow point that out in this document, maybe. I don't know.
Katie has a comment.
So for the state rated capacity for Southern High School, I know we closed off a wing so that they wouldn't include those measurements. Is that updated in this? Like with that wing closed off, if our state rated capacity is still 1450?
It included the wing, yes.
Including the wing?
Yes.
So then when we took the wing out, would that lower our state rated capacity?
No.
No.
It's all space in the school, whether it's mothballed or active or whatever, it's all space in the school.
I was under the, I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah, right. I liked your train of thought.
It was a good question.
Yeah, but I've heard
Excellent
that.
question.
I think some other people are thinking that's true too.
Yeah,
That comes off of our capacity.
if you're not using it.
On page 80, when I compared it to the one we just got to last year's, the second paragraph down, there's a sentence that has been taken off, which maybe we took it off last year. I don't see it here. Maybe it was. It has the line through it. So that means we would have took it off last year, correct? Okay. I answered my question on that one.
Good job.
Well, no, I'm like, it's not on here, but then it had the line from last year. We admitted it. Question.
So were these state capacities, were those in our information that we got, were those marked as being changed?
I think
They should have been highlighted.
Yeah, I think they were highlighted.
I'm not sure.
I'm checking. Thank you.
Yeah, it looks like
Yeah. Go to appendix H93.
Okay.
Shows everything's been highlighted as changed. That was appendix H.
Yeah, it's on the appendix. It's also on the individual school sheets
Yeah.
under the facility inventories. Yeah, that did change the formula quite a bit with all these different numbers they have and multiplying. It used to just be like a classroom was a certain number of students. You considered it based on whether it was elementary or middle or high school. Now they've totally changed the formula.
The space.
So does that come from, you said it came from the state?
Yes.
I just sent that to you.
Yeah.
That's not real. But on the other hand, somehow it didn't change for Krellin or these other schools, so it doesn't make sense to me why one of them's at 103% capacity and another one's at 50% capacity.
Well, they use different criteria. Like they used to not count like computer labs. Now computer labs are counted as classroom spaces. They didn't. Gymnasiums are somewhat counted. I can't remember exactly how they do it, but some gyms are used to calculate state rated capacity. So there's, over the years, I guess the school's use of the classrooms or the rooms have changed, that maybe they weren't counted as classrooms in the past, but now they are. And a lot of it has to do with the technology change.
Those type rooms aren't in the elementary schools, is that?
Not as much like a Krellin. I mean, yeah. Krellin doesn't have an art room. They don't have a music room. You know, they don't have a gym, right? So probably the old criteria and the new criteria are probably pretty close for Krellin.
Crawford's at 111% capacity.
We can't count portable classrooms. If you count portable classrooms, it's another 200 seats you could add on to the capacity.
You can't count portable classrooms?
No.
How many separate buildings, how many separate entities are there in those portable classrooms? Do you recall?
How many?
Well,
You mean sections?
Yeah, sections, yeah.
There's 4 sections.
4 sections. So they came in 4 different sections.
Well, no, actually, they came in 8 different sections because 2 sections made a classroom. 2 classrooms.
2 classrooms, yeah.
Well,
So-
this is-
But the Krellen portables do count in the state.
No, they don't.
They don't?
No, we clarified that
Oh,
too.
you did?
Yeah, we couldn't count the Krellen portable classrooms.
Well, the thing I'm seeing is there's a lot of, there's a lot more story to these numbers than when you just look at the numbers.
Right.
So
Yeah, you have to put context and.
you got to have context
Yeah.
and somehow, or maybe footnotes or something that explain some of these things. Because anybody reading it might get the wrong impression, I think. Maybe they get the right impression.
One way or another.
I
it's
think
a-
you will get the wrong impression, I agree with you. You know.
Was this state rate capacity paper, with the facilities group, have they seen that? Is that what they would be going by for state rate capacities? Do you know?
They'll go
that?
by what the current state.
So that would be what
law is.
they're looking at now?
Right.
I assume this is what Dr. Lever is looking at?
He'll know those, I'm sure. And as far as the projections too, I think he has a consultant that's working as a
Yes.
sub-consultant, looking at specific areas and everything too.
It would be interesting to see with these new criteria how our capacity compares to other jurisdictions' capacities in their high schools and middle schools. I don't know if you have those numbers for other jurisdictions, but I'd really be interested in seeing it.
Yeah, I don't, trying to think how,
Because if it changed it for us, why wouldn't it change it for everybody
Yeah, it probably
else?
has for others.
But how can you get hold of that? Do you have access to that information, Bill?
I'm trying to think on the public school construction site if they have state rate capacity. I don't think they do have it listed for each county.
Sure, Dr. Lever.
But each county probably has a report like that.
Yeah, they probably do have their own report,
They
yeah.
do, and they post it.
Yeah. Do you know where that is,
Well,
Karen?
each school system has it, if you just do a
On their
search.
If you go to their
You'd have to
website,
look at
individual
each one's
website, yeah.
Well, I mean, pick whatever, 4 or 5 of them out and just take a look at them, see if it would
Allegheny
be a
County
little bit.
changed.
huh?
Yeah, Allegheny County would be a good
Yeah, Allegheny
comparison.
County would just be, you wouldn't have to
They have
look at
older
all of
schools,
them,
too.
but I think it would be informative to see if this change of
A
criteria.
much more devastating, new,
Did they?
yes, than Garrett.
You have a lot of older schools there that I'm sure were.
Yeah, their capacity looks a whole lot worse than ours now. So they've common-sized the problem, if you will, so
Yeah,
we're not alone.
but that helps us to have that information, to know that.
Yeah, to know it's not different.
You know, that's all.
Okay.
I know it took a lot of time for your staff to go through all these schools and look at everything, but I did take a lot of time. Crazy or not, I read every page. We won't say how many hours it took. And I noticed a lot of things. One thing I did notice, from last year we only had 3, which that's not bad at all, out of, what is there, each building has 24 categories for people that don't see the sheet. We only had 3 that were rated poor last year. Now this year I did notice it went up to 7 of things that we need to address. But like a couple of them, the roof at Broadford we have on the CIP. Southern Middle, it said exterior structure condition, which we have that on deferred maintenance on the year, I believe, 2023. So several of these things, and even Krellen, the ceilings, is on the deferred maintenance. But I did notice, I was reading all the notes from last year to this year, your side notes. A couple things I didn't see, and I just curious why they weren't put on the paper from last year to this year, transferred over. Like for Krellen last year, it said, total school renovation is needed at a gym. I didn't see that on the side. And like Swan Meadow said, extend the parking lot. I didn't see that. So like some things, there was different things added. Is it more priority or just, I was just curious.
I would say like the Krellen, the renovation,
Uh-huh.
I purposely didn't put it on there because I see that as a major CIP project.
Okay.
And we know it's a need.
Right.
I tried to limit this to the smaller, not necessarily the smaller, but the things that we could do ourselves.
Within our operating
Within our budget, yeah, as opposed to going for a capital plan. The Swan Meadow, that was taken off because we We put it in the budget last year, we didn't get budgeted for it. It's a nice to have, it's not a
Right,
needed.
right.
But that's why we didn't put it back on there this year.
Okay, so we've had a few additions here. Yep.
I just have one more question, and I apologize to go back to this because it's slightly off topic, but what would be the benefit then of closing off a wing in a school if it's not limiting the state rated capacity? I'm sure there is a benefit, I'm just wondering what it is.
Well, the idea is that we don't have to maintain it on a daily basis. We don't have to heat it. And it just saves the operating.
We don't have to clean it.
Well, that's what I mean. We don't have to maintain it. We don't have to clean it. We don't have people in there. And we turn the temperature down.
Okay, thank you for explaining that.
So did I understand you right, if you have a child care center or something like that in that part of the school, it still gets counted for?
Yes.
Okay.
We can't count the kids, but we count the space.
Right.
All right. Any other questions? So this is for action tonight. Is there a motion to approve with the changes that have been noted?
So moved.
So second.
Motion by Monica and second by Tom. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. It is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Get this.
I
I'll leave this with Karen because I need to get your 2 signatures on a couple pages here, so.
Okay. And I made a few notes so we can double check to make sure that we've included their changes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen, you want me to give this to you or?
All right. We'll move to the school strategic planning committee update. So I did speak with Dr. Lever, and he will plan to join us for probably be a telephone conference at our July meeting. He had another engagement this evening, but talked with him, and he submitted the report. So there have been 2 meetings since our last meeting. So the 4th meeting was on May 23rd, 2019. A majority of members and Dr. Lever participated via teleconference. Some members were here in the boardroom. Following approval of the minutes from the May 7th meeting, the committee members discussed their impressions of the 3 community listening sessions that were held on May 7th through 9th. It was observed that the community turnout was good and certain themes were very prominent among the speakers and those who submitted comments, including the value placed on community schools, on smaller classrooms, on equity and the teacher-to-student ratio, and on related topics that affect the quality of education. A large number of speakers spoke in favor of not closing or consolidating schools, although a few speakers supported investigation of these topics based on academic and efficiency factors. A chart was developed that indicates the topics discussed and the number of speakers on each topic, which we did receive, so thanks, Charlotte, for noting that. This valuable information will be considered by the committee throughout the planning process, and in speaking with Dr. Lever, he was very impressed with the turnout for the community listen sessions, especially on the 2nd and 3rd day. In his experience, it was good. Research teams made up of strategic facility committee members have been finalized. They're looking at 4 major topics: grade configurations, alternate education, single high school and CTE high school, and community schools. Preliminary reports are anticipated around July 15th, but the teams will report on their status at each SFC meeting. The purpose of the research is to ensure that planning recommendations presented by the committee to the board are supported by the evidence available from other Maryland school systems, from university and research institutes, and from other sources. Dr. Lever asked for comment on a list of preliminary planning objectives and areas of impact, and the committee proposed expanding the list of planning objectives as well as the areas of impact. This instrument, which is in a matrix format, will be developed and will play a role in evaluating planning options at the workshops that is scheduled for June 18th and 20th. So that's coming up to be a busy week. The committee also reviewed internal reports concerning the utilization of schools and costs associated with excess facility capacity. The information in these reports will be updated and will assist in the discussion at the workshops. The next meeting was on June 6th, the fifth meeting. The majority of the members once again participated via teleconference, and 2 members were here. They approved the minutes, and each of the committees reported on the status of their investigations. They're all in the information gathering stage, collecting information from school systems, the internet, and other sources. The Alternative Education Group developed a survey to be distributed to school staff before the end of the year to assess the level of disruptive behavior and to receive suggestions for addressing the issue. The group is seeking additional per-school information on suspensions. The single high school, CTE high school group is reviewing information assembled during the RISE planning process, as well as new information. Updates will be presented by the groups at the next meeting on June 18th. The committee continued the discussion on planning objectives, and Dr. Lever requested the members to complete their personal inputs into a planning objectives matrix. He stressed the difficulty of the task before the committee. Garrett County Public Schools faces a broad spectrum of facility issues, including educational deficiencies, aging building systems and components, imbalances in utilization, and some schools in need of major projects. Almost every school in the system has needs, many of them extensive, while financial resources are concurrently highly constrained. This single, straightforward, and compelling approach is indicated from the evidence. Consequently, the recommendations of the committee will be based on the values that are expressed through the planning objectives and the weights assigned to them. The workshop of June 18th will provide an extended opportunity for the committee to develop its collective statement of planning objectives and what it helps to accomplish through the strategic facilities plan. This meeting included a discussion on planning options for each school. 4 major areas of actions are possible: closure, consolidation, redistricting, grade band reconfiguration, or capital improvements. Under capital improvements, a range of options exists from minor to major projects. The most significant decision that faces the committee is whether to accept the existing configuration of school facilities or consider changes to this configuration. Extensive discussion is needed around this central issue, which will not only affect the effort of the committee, but will also potentially be controversial and could have implications for the economic development of the county. And this will be given ample time at the June 18th and 20th workshops. So that's the update that was presented. Yeah, Charlotte.
I have a question. I looked online today for the minutes from the 5/7 meeting and the 5/23 meeting. The information said they both had been approved, but I didn't find them on the SFC online.
They might actually be on there, the actual page.
I went to the actual page.
They're not on the front. Yeah, they weren't on there earlier when I looked today. So yeah, the minutes that have been approved, if we can make sure they get posted.
Yeah, 5/7 and 5/23, and then there was.
Yeah, the ones that have been approved and as they get approved.
Yeah, because in that note that you gave, it said both were approved.
Yeah, the 5/23 and the May 7th.
Thank you.
Yeah, Monica.
I just noticed something, earlier. When it talks about the research team have been finalized in 4 major topics: grade configurations, alternative education, single high school / CTE high school, and community schools. I guess that's the 4 groups they're kind of working on.
Right.
But when I look at the document we have, it says a plan will address the condition of its facilities and the school system, enrollment and demographic data, and the preferences and concerns of the community in order to develop a vision for Garrett County Public Schools facilities and learning environments that is aligned with the community and board values. So I just want to make sure these things that we had said are also not left behind and in here.
He has, the first meeting I was at reiterated those, and I know that that's always before the committee, and I think we were clear that they can consider any and all options, but the community support is a vital thing for us, and we've reiterated that a couple times, as well as the data that has to support whatever recommendations come.
So when there's community, they can have another input, feedback, and that will be this fall. I encourage.
Yeah, once the recommendations are made in September, they'll be, this time it'll be community feedback sessions as opposed to community listening sessions. So it'll be feedback based on the recommendations, which then they could adjust based on the public comment.
I have a question. I missed the June 6th meeting because I was at a joint titles meeting, the federal joint titles meeting, and I have had 2 principals reach out to me today to say that they were contacted by committee members that are doing that want to survey staff about behaviors. And I didn't know how to advise them. I assume.
Yeah, all I know is what it says in here, where it says that, I guess the alternative education group developed a survey. It says, that's all I know.
So, yeah, I did. I just had one. I was in a school this morning. A principal asked me about it, and then I had an email right before coming into this meeting, so I didn't have time to talk to him. But I just wanted to assume that others will. You did.
You got a survey?
No, I didn't get a survey. I got a question from a principal.
Oh, a question.
I guess if the committee feels it's important, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a reason because we're not in their discussion. So I think it would be great if they feel they've come to this point and if they made the questionnaire or whatever, that it should be going
Talk
on.
with Dr. Lieber. Yeah. Send an email.
And I would look, see who's on that committee, and so I was.
Mrs. Paul, and it's not that we want them to do the survey, it's just making sure. I don't know anything else. Principals know it's coming and the teachers understand that it's okay to go ahead and do it because it's part of this.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. I just want to make sure that if they feel that it needs to be done, that it happens.
All right. And the audio for the community listening sessions will send out, so.
That worked very well. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That was excellent.
All right. Anything else? Other questions on that?
Those 2 dates, I seen they had July, was it June 18th and 20th? They're going to be having their following meetings.
18,
Yeah.
19, and 20.
Well, this part of it says.
I think it's 18th and 20th. I think it's just the
I didn't see
18th and 20th.
Unless maybe it was worded wrong.
I think
somewhere.
he'll be here that whole week, but it's the 18th and 20th that the committees meeting.
Thank you.
All right. How you guys doing? You need a break? You want 5 minutes, or you want to go rip through policy?
We can do whatever you want to do.
Let's see how the first two go.
All right. Let's bring in some policies there. So we're going to leave school for curricular, co-curricular, or extracurricular events.
This policy and procedure are back before you this evening. Some changes were made based on our previous discussion, and this is up for action this evening. Any comments or questions?
Okay, any questions on the policy?
I just have a couple questions that I don't know the answers to. And I tried to find it before the meeting today, and I just couldn't find it. Tell me about chaperones for a field trip.
That's in the field trip policy.
I saw that. I went to that and I looked at that, but it talks about what their duties are. But do we do any type of if a parent says I want to be a chaperone for this field trip, and they put their name down on a piece of paper, are they a chaperone?
They have to have the background check and
They have to have all that completed first. Okay.
to be a chaperone.
Yeah, I've tried. Is that in?
That's an old policy.
Is that, yeah, so it must be so old I couldn't find it, because I know it's been there forever.
Well,
But I couldn't find the
it
procedure.
applied to me at one time, so
I
probably
couldn't
is.
find it, I guess was, I don't know if it's still, I assume it's still there somewhere.
I think it's under the field trip.
Well, when I see the form, it doesn't have anything about, at least I couldn't find it now. It could be, but. Talks about their chaperone responsibilities. I don't see anything where it says you've completed a background check, you've completed, did it get fingerprinted and the whole 9 yards?
That's new. We worked on that.
I had to do that.
I was still at Northern Middle when it came about.
I remember.
Barb's
12
looking.
years
That's
ago.
why I'm not jumping on it, because I know Barb's looking for it. She's
Yeah,
better.
I just couldn't, just out of curiosity, I wanted to see what it said.
Oh, no, but
In this day and age.
we
'cause
updated it,
obviously-
I'm gonna say maybe 4 years ago, where it included because prior to this change, which I'm thinking was about 4 years ago, it was a little bit easier to be a chaperone.
Yeah.
But all that's.
Maybe there was a different criteria if you're doing an overnight trip. or a day trip?
I know that it says now that if you are, like, if you're with a group that's going to Hershey Park and you're taking a group of kids, you have to be an approved chaperone. You have to have a background check and background check and a drug test.
Which makes perfect sense. I just was trying to find it in procedure and policy that says exactly what it is. Because it would be very easy to say a parent wants to go on the trip, I'm gonna go with my child, but what you don't know is what that parent has already done.
Sure.
And they're gonna be with other children.
Sure.
So obviously that's the need for it. And if we find it, that's fine. If not, that's okay too.
It might be under the volunteer policy,
I'm looking, yeah.
I just lost my daggone thing.
but we can check that out in policy committee to make
It
sure.
might be under the volunteer now that you say that.
I know it's under the volunteer contract for like a coach when we're doing coaching. I'm thinking from athletic. I know it's there. Now, I don't know if it says volunteer / chaperone or not. I don't
Just
know.
look at the definition of volunteer.
It talks about supervising.
It kind of always alluded to extracurricular people, volunteers. Yeah, the other
Yeah,
one.
under the volunteer, it does talk about those who supervise students on overnight field trips, and then it talks about the background checks and all that.
Doesn't,
Yeah.
but it's overnight. But does it say overnight?
Yeah, it says overnight field trips.
But what about a daytime field trip?
Services to students, I would say it's covered under number 1, right? Through programs facilitated by Garrett County Public
Volunteers
School.
for positions, criminal background check.
But that's a position.
That's a position.
I'm talking about a chaperone. Now, one day, I'm going to go to Kennywood with the kids, chaperone.
What says employees and volunteers?
Right, yes, it just says.
Jim said to look at 347.51. 347.51.
I have a question while they're looking at more under policies.
Mm-hmm.
Under B, scope, I think I'd asked this question last month. When it says, events must receive approval in writing from the principal of the school. But isn't all of our forms now electronic? Like, do you actually write it?
You did ask that.
I did, because I don't write it, aren't all the forms electronically done now?
Yeah, and the principal, approval in writing, yeah.
But I think
We took out in writing, but we scratched in writing, didn't we?
No, it's still there.
But I mean, we were supposed to.
Yes.
We were
Right.
supposed to.
But
We can
when
take that off.
Approval, yeah, we'll scratch that out.
Okay.
From the principal, because the principal approves it via the info finder process.
Right.
But that's still in writing, sort of. I mean, it's not a verbal.
It's electric.
Well, but it's all, but I would
It's written.
prefer it be.
It's written.
Well, but I'd rather it be.
Anymore, that's considered your signature.
But I have no problem with that. I thought we agreed to do that. I must
Yeah,
have
and
missed
that's
it
fine.
when I turned it in this time.
Because 2 or 3 years ago, everything was handwritten. You had to handwrite it. Well, now it's all electronic. So I'd rather it be coordinate with how they actually do it, since we're updating the
Yeah, I always
policy.
consider those things to be, when you say in writing, that it just.
Well, I see what you're saying,
It
but
means not verbal.
There's documentation.
This way, if you take that out, it could be verbal, and I don't know that we want to move.
Yeah, so if it
on
says in writing, they have to.
There has to be some
email or-
documentation.
Yeah, and if you don't have that, then you're going to get verbal, and then
Well,
that way.
you're right. In writing, that is in writing.
I would say, I would leave it in my opinion.
Or electronic documentation or
Or
something.
something like that, you could say that.
yeah, what's the form they fill out? What's it called?
Info finder.
Well, it's called info finder, but I wouldn't want to be that specific.
Because it
But I would
changes.
say through electronic means or
Yeah.
something.
Electronic means.
But the principal does have to check a box or something that says approved.
Right, yeah.
And sign off, yeah.
That's in writing.
Yeah, I think we're better off to leave it. I see what you're saying, but.
What do you think?
I think you have.
Or you could say.
You're gonna have to either leave it there, or you're gonna
Come
have
up
to
with an
figure out
alternative.
some other word.
And I don't know what
I
it is.
think
Right,
leave
because
it.
what you're gonna get is people saying somebody approved it, and somebody said, they told me I could go, and then they're
Yeah.
gonna say.
I said,
yes,
where's your
they did."
form? Where's your form?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
The
And
form
we
is,
do that for ELS.
they're printed.
It's all electronic, but it's considered.
It's electronic, but but
Right.
it's printed on the field trip form.
All right, it sounds like it's staying in there, I think. Okay. Any other questions on this one?
This was the easy one. So never be on the
I don't know.
No, I guess I have another question. I just have I don't know that we do this, so therefore we might want to think about it. It's page 6, number 5. It says, upon return out of county, stops may be made at approved location with the chaperone's permission. Schools will request approval from Transportation Department for such stops 5 days before taking the trip. We don't do that in athletics. At least we never did. If you're taking Route 135 and you're coming into Oakland and mom and dad sitting at the top of the hill because they live in Shalmar, you're going to stop the bus. Coach is going to say, stop the bus. Johnny's parents are here to pick him up. So, you know, I'm just.
to be honest,
That's the reality of what's going to happen. So I don't know that we want to paint ourselves in a corner by saying we're not going to do it, or we're going to do it 5 days before every trip. Because my gosh, you'd have to have a secretary just dedicated to that.
I do think
How are you going to verify that those are the parents?
How you going to? Well, because you know them most. In my case, I would know them because they were players.
Well, I have had. At the school level, had to deal with that at times, and they have said only at approved stops. That's been my experience, but I haven't had to supervise like sports.
Sure.
Like you're saying.
Well, I guess the biggest concern I have is the 5 days for every trip.
Well, why don't we make it?
5 days seems a bit
for
much in an
example,
electronic age.
For example, they would say the bus is coming from east. The bus will. For Northern Middle, they would say the bus will make a stop at Grantsville Elementary and then we'll arrive at Northern Middle School. So they really, I mean, it's been my experiences that they followed this.
And band trips, we would let them go home with their parents at the trip.
Yeah, you can.
So when they say, I'm not going to go on the bus, I'm going to go with my parents.
Well, you're still allowed to go. You have to sign them out.
Yeah, you can still do that. I guess my concern is that if I've got 15 away baseball games, then this says that 5 days prior to the trip, I must request from the transportation director the right to stop at those approved stops.
Well, why don't we say 2 days or 1 day?
I'm reluctant to change that because it's my belief that that's been the practice, and if you don't have it in there, then the bus drivers are like, I understand they might do that. But
no, I'm not so much caring about not approved places as I am the logistics of knowing that we're not submitting to the transportation director every trip we take at the athletic level, asking for permission to stop that bus 5 days before they take a trip. You'd have to have a secretary that does just that.
No, I think there is a list of approved stops. Like,
sure.
We're either going down 70,
sure.
68, 70,
or you can get to the point where you drop
and I think there's a list of approved stops.
Mm-hmm.
And we stop any one of those if the child's parent is there.
And I'm okay
no
with that.
5 day,
and
nothing.
Yeah, I just say do away with the request.
But if it's a different stop outside of one of the approved stops, then they have, like if they're coming back and they want to stop at, go out of their way to go someplace or something, then there's, I believe. But I do think Mrs. DeBoer is right. I think they have a list of approved stops, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah, I would be reluctant to, without Mr. Roslowski in the room, I would be reluctant to make, Do
we want to table this one until we find out for sure?
Well, maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, and stop me if I am, but it would just make sense to me to say approved stops will be given to, approved stops by the transportation director will be provided. Stops requesting stops that are not approved must be approved 5 days before the trip.
Well, that's not hard to do.
I would think it would just take out all the logistics of firing off to him every time I take a trip. I want 5 days before, hey, by the way, I want to stop at the approved stop. Because that's what we're saying.
No, I don't think you have to ask. If it's an approved stop, you don't have to ask. That's what I'm saying. If it's an approved stop, you don't have to ask.
I don't think you want to get to the point where you have to drop off every.
No, we don't do that. That's why we have the approved stops. That's why we have.
No, I think Tom's right in the reading.
Yeah, I know I'm right.
Because it says for such stops.
That's why I think we should. That's why I think it's not vital that we approve this evening for any.
No, because that's never. This is not the way I've understood it to be.
Yeah.
There it is written like.
Yeah, you're asking permission to stop at an approved stop.
Yeah. Okay. You're double asking.
Yeah, you are. That's what I'm trying to get, that's what I'm trying to say.
I think that if you say schools will request approval from the transportation department for such stops, I mean, I think you want to just take that second sentence out. Upon return to the county stops may be visited for donations.
Right, I'm not sure that's what we're.
I don't know, but that's fine. I don't mind changing the language.
That's the
I feel like I'm wasting my
procedure.
time going to policy meetings when we end up discussing these things for an hour in these meetings. So that maybe we need to change the way we do it. If everybody gets a list of the policies we're going to be discussing at the policy meeting, and they could send one of the members these type comments, and we could thrash it all out at the policy meeting, and then when we come here, we could go through them pretty quickly.
But we get this after your policy meeting.
Well,
that's what he was saying.
Tom, I'm saying we ought to change that policy.
Yeah.
I can understand if there's something in there that we didn't
That's
think
not
of
a
in the
bad
policy.
Sure.
If there's comments specific.
But if everybody has a copy of and they have an opportunity to review before we actually come together in a meeting, then Tom and I can feed that back into and so we're not constantly taking these policies and sending them back for a revision of a line here or a line there.
This, now, we can't approve the policy. There's no reason we can't approve the policy, which is what we have to approve.
It's a procedure that's a
Procedure is what it's up to.
Right.
And why don't we amend this procedure to,
Sure.
get the language.
It's just it's not worded correctly. It's saying the wrong
I see
thing.
what you're saying.
Yeah, it's saying the
I see
wrong
what you're
thing.
saying.
That's what I'm saying.
You have a question?
Yes, so this might be opening before our kindergarten, I apologize for that.
okay.
But I'm just, there have been some concerns about how to assign out a student from, like, you go to an athletic event and you don't want to ride the bus back. Could you go with your parent or could you go with a friend's parent? Like, I don't know if that's in here already, but some athletic events allow you to go with not your parent with a permission slip, but other curricular activities do not. So I'm just not sure if that's laid out in policy.
It's in a different policy and procedure. Your, any school employee who has a group of kids has to have a sign out for students. So your parent can always sign you out, no problem. Also, anybody else who's listed on your emergency contact information can sign you out with a note from your parent.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a process. There is a process.
You have
It's
to
been in
do
place
that
for a
because
long
you don't
time.
want to leave somebody at the event.
Right. Yeah, and
So-
you don't want to,
Or
there are
give them the wrong-
too many moving parts when you're out there. It has to be already predetermined prior to you leaving. Too many moving parts if you've got kids all over the place and then you go, oh, you and so-and-so are really hooking up today and really having a great time, and her mother's here, and you're like, I just want to go home with you, You can't make those changes after the fact once you're on the trip. Right. It has to be on your emergency.
And it also has to be a parent or otherwise not your boyfriend or something like that. We don't allow that.
I just didn't know if it was in,
No,
like, I didn't see it in this document.
It's not on this.
It's not on that.
Thank you.
I think it's in the extracurricular handbook.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is where the sign up, or where the emergency contact list is.
Okay, so we'll check.
All right, here's the policy. So is there a motion to approve the
I need
policy?
to approve the policy.
I'll second the policy.
All right, motion to approve the policy. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
I'm going to take this back.
Those opposed?
Procedure we're talking.
Take it
Nay.
back.
So the policy is approved. You can look at the procedure with Rich and see what we come up with. All right.
Should just bring the procedure back next month.
Yeah.
Change.
Medical Leave Act. Dr. Wilson. Let's see if you could go as long as that one.
Okay. Well, good evening. This evening I am bringing the Family Medical Leave Act for your action. Do you have any questions? There were actually there were no revisions on this particular policy.
No questions? minutes.
Well, we discussed it
Yep.
last month.
We
That
discussed
the
it.
revisions come from PK law.
Policy
That
committee
is
looked
what you
at it
told us.
twice.
So,
So is there a motion to approve GCBDA?
So moved.
Second.
I think
It's time for a break.
I don't know. I heard Tom, but I heard Ball. I heard Rodney second clearly.
Tom.
Yeah, Tom and Rodney. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That policy is approved. Then we'll look at GCC.
GCC was also, tonight I'm asking for action on this. There were minor revisions on page 1 of the policy. It was just adding human resources. And page 2 of the procedure, there were some revisions on that page.
All right. So this is the second time on this one too. Any questions? Is there? You have a question?
I have a question. Okay. We looked at this. Let's see. We was going to look at it in April, but we put them on hold.
Right.
So we looked at it in May. And I have the actual copy with me from May. And then tonight it's a second reading. But when I looked at it, it looks like there's a lot of different changes. Let's see. Did I see what's different?
Now this one is the employment of non-administrative
Professionals.
employees. But there is one on employment of support service employees. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, now I have, because I looked,
Okay.
it's code GCC, yep, employment of non-administrative professional employees. Because I'm looking and well, like on the first one, procedure, we have A, purpose, it remained the same. B, definitions, which the old one had a one under it, but it's still the same wording, so the one is the big deal. Okay, we had C was administrative procedures, now C is application. But then you go under C with 1, it says, with the knowledge of the Director of Human Resources, various staff members of the Garrett County Public Schools, and it goes on.
Right.
But the one now over here, to be considered for employment, like there's a big difference in it. Of what I printed off from.
I'm seeing something different. What I'm
Yeah,
seeing is exactly what we had
Yeah,
the last time.
It's in the
But
text.
from what I printed from
Yeah, I printed from May.
well, actually,
And then I printed
would-
from June,
sorry.
and they're different.
I would have printed it, honestly, that's why I have my agendas. I printed it in April, and then I put on here, do all at May board meeting. There was 5 that we did not do, and that was 1. So this is what we had. I don't know.
You're looking at the procedure of the policy.
I'm looking at the procedure. Would
Oh,
you,
the
James,
procedure.
want to see what, instead of me, just to see what, I mean, because I date everything. Like, see, this is what we had. See, because I'm printing something on color, but I mean, there's a big,
That is an old one. This is what it should be.
well, this is what was on,
That's what
this
you
is
gave
what
us
is
last
downloaded
month.
to us.
Yeah, that's what it was.
This is on the computer.
Yeah.
Because this is what we initially
That-
looked at.
That is correct. That is the procedure right there.
So
That's
that
the
one,
procedure.
so what I
That's
pulled
correct.
off of our agenda, this is totally wrong. So look at the policy, is it the same too? Let's see.
Yeah, I've got the policy right here, and they're different.
No,
I went back to compare the change.
is that what you have that we're approving tonight? Is that this is the one?
That is correct, yes.
What does
Okay.
yours look like? What
Well,
is your
no,
policy?
this is my original one, I don't have the color.
No, I wanted to know what
Okay.
her policy looks. That's the policy?
This is the policy.
That's the procedure.
Right, this is the
This-
policy.
Okay, well, see this cross-ref, non-administrative person. That's what's posted
So-
on, that's what's posted.
Maybe we can just get another month to.
Yeah, so we can get it, because the one online is not is not same as last month.
I don't know. The only revisions that were made, again, from the policy was on D, on responsibility of the Office of Human Resources. I'm not sure why there's something different on board docs, I'm not sure. And then with the procedure, there were only, as I said, minor revisions. Would you like me to make copies of this so that you can?
See, you can look at here's the June new, this is what was posted, and this is the procedures from May, and they're nothing more.
Let's just table that one.
How would you like to?
Printed off.
Yeah, yes, well, we don't want to
this is
approve
what we
because
had.
there's different, it's different.
The policy doesn't have as many material changes, but let's just table it. Let's go on, and we'll bring it back with the correct one next month.
Okay, so we're tabling that one and we'll bring it back.
Send out the correct one tomorrow or next couple days to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so GDD, workforce.
Oh, I gotta go back. I'm in the wrong month, so.
I was actually looking.
Go ahead. I gotta go to June 11th now. That's the one we just tabled. GCC we just tabled. Yeah, we already did that one. GDD.
So it should be GDD, workforce plan for non-instructional support.
Yes.
This was one that we, also, this is a second read. There were no revisions on this one last time.
Right.
All right, any questions on this one? Is there a motion to approve?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
This is the policy, right? This is the policy we're looking at. And I went down the purpose of the policy, and then you got the scope and the policy statement and the responsibilities. Then you have policy. And
It's F instead of E. It's F instead of E. Should be E, whatever it is.
yeah, it should be E, whatever, you're right. But the policy is no discrimination or.
That's a distinction clause, yeah.
And providing employee training and development opportunities to build leadership, providing you've got a policy statement, and there's other things mentioned, but then you just have this listing of policy. So did you have the two providing, and then you added the no discrimination?
Right, yes, I did.
You had that before?
Yes, yeah, the red's what was added.
Right. Yes. The just
And then from the policy, you can see all the strikeouts because they had these methods include, so then that's why I created a procedure that included those methods.
Yes, you said last month, all those methods were just basically moved over and put on the
Yeah.
procedures.
That's right.
I think it actually, I think to Charlotte's point, I think some of this should go under maybe that it's, because those are just kind of phrases out there. They're not.
Yeah, I don't understand how that can be
So I think under kind of responsibilities, maybe, that in order to attain a highly competent and skilled workforce, we work collaboratively with all department directors as well as school administrators to provide employee training and development opportunities to build leadership, job expertise, and other skills, and to provide substitutes the opportunity for work, so forth. And then we have just the policy statement of no discrimination. I think that would work.
So add 2 and 3 underneath the therefore statement, right? And then have the discrimination clause.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes. Makes sense.
Okay. How about with the procedure? Any questions on that?
Okay, give me a second.
Okay, motion to approve the policy. Is there a second? Second. All right, been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I was trying to figure out, the purpose of the policy is to attain a highly competent and skilled workforce. It has a definition what non-instructional support service personnel is. And then the administrative procedure starts off with no discrimination, or shouldn't it be number 2? Shouldn't that be it is our goal to bridge the gap between the current workforce and the future needs? We will use methods that provide the highest return on investment, and then just switch number 1 and number 2, because I know you have to have the no discrimination. But it seems like that the procedure is actually what number 2 is, not, you see what I'm saying?
Are we on the procedure of the policy?
The policy is what we're approving, but we can make, yeah, that's what we're approving.
Sorry.
I'll take mine.
Sorry, thank you. Let me go back.
The motion's okay. So we're on the policy, but then that can be an adjustment to the procedure, which, that's just switching the number.
I have just a clarification. Under definitions, who would be our transportation workers? Who would that? Well, no, I mean, I know who guidance counselors are, maintenance staff, custodians, food service personnel. Like when we do a job posting, I don't remember seeing we're hiring for a transportation worker.
The reason I laughed, it was just seemed like a funny term.
I'm just trying to understand who they are. Like our bus drivers are contractors, so they wouldn't even. Do you know what that would refer to, Jane?
Well, I really think it's the transportation department, the other, rather than the director. I think it is, the assistant and the secretary.
Okay. I just never seen that wording. I wanted to be clear who our transportation workers were.
Okay, the policy is the motion before us. All those in favor of the policy, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And then we'll make those changes to the procedure. All right. And then we have some revisions here.
Are we on GDC now?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is actually for first read. So it's employment of support service employees. Do you have any questions about on the policy?
I do. Don't go yet.
Do you want to switch 1 and 2?
I haven't gotten that far yet.
That's a policy, you're probably all right.
Well, your policy goes, I see E was not changed at all.
Right, that's correct.
Did you have a question on that?
I have a question. Under employment of supportive services employees, I'm looking at the policy. Under what's branded your policy statement, when you go to number 2, Some factors considered when selecting supportive service employees include, but are not limited to the following, and it gives a description. When it says past job performance, would that be like considered where you do your reference checks? That's what I thought.
Are you looking at procedure or policy?
I am looking at the policy.
Well, I'm on the wrong.
F2 is where she is.
GDC. There's too many GD.
Yeah,
Sounds really
GDC.
funny. There are too many GD policies there.
Well, okay, that's it.
There you go.
Yeah, be careful there, Rick.
I know. It's tough. All right.
And when you look at the same one for that, employment of supportive service employees, when you look at the procedure, when you go to D, interview process, when you go clear down to 13, should we have that word, Director of Human Resources again in there? It says Director of Resource Offices, so we could add the word human, okay.
Procedure. So number 13 on the procedure.
Well, I just had
We skipped there on you real quick.
Did we approve the policy?
So are there any other?
No, we don't need to approve it tonight.
this is our first read.
Are there any other
Any other
questions?
questions?
I think Ms. Siebold has one. I have another one. Just when you look at the procedure, employment of supportive services employees, when you go back down to where I was a minute ago, interview process, D. When you look at 7, how we have the different personnel grouped, like we have assistant and facility / maintenance and operations. You have head custodian / cafeteria manager together. Would we not put principal / assistant principals in the same line?
Sure, we can do that.
And then you have appropriate directors. Would we then put the / and put supervisors?
Sure.
Just to be consistent? Thank you.
Okay. That's the first read on this. Anything else? GEC.
GEC?
GEC.
Okay, GEC. GEC is for teacher reassignment, transfers. So, on here, we have the consistent format of the purpose, scope, and policy statement, and then the disclaimer for the discrimination clause, and then created a new procedure for this particular policy. Do you have any questions on this policy or procedure?
First reader, too.
This is the first read, yes.
We did not have a procedure before,
That is-
correct?
that is
So
correct.
that's why it's totally brand new.
Yes.
That Garrett County Public Board of Education, that's odd.
Should be same.
Yeah, it's
Garrett
in
County
the-
Public Schools.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, it should
Number
say
six.
so it's Garrett County Board of Education. Yeah, the public should come out, you're right.
Garrett County Education Association.
It also says it at the bottom, for 6 or something. Procedure.
Yeah, that was a bit, it's something.
Anything else?
All right, that's procedure and policies. Any other questions?
Also says it on number 3.
Right, on the procedure, yeah. Yes, I made that change too, yes.
So why are we doing this policy, the GEC?
Why are we doing it?
We had to change
We
the,
didn't have a procedure.
well, that part, but then we made a change to the discrimination.
Discrimination clause, that's correct. And just to, again, get the consistent format as well with the purpose, scope, and policy statement. The last one?
GE, general
Change
election.
one on the policy, where it has Garrett County Public Education. Wonderful policy.
She's changing all of those.
Okay, I was looking at the procedure way.
Okay, under GE, purpose of the changes, again, to get the consistent format, update some of the definitions, and then also to create a procedure. This policy did not have a procedure.
Under policy for this one, this is contracts, tenure, resignation. Under D, responsibilities, we need to add the Office of Human Resources again. It's not in there.
It's the Office of Human.
Unlike the other offices, but.
I'm sorry.
We have robots there. Be financed, wouldn't it?
So on that one, you did the same thing. You added a purpose, scope, policy statement, right?
Yes.
And then the discrimination.
And then discrimination. And then we had 1 and 2, certificated employees with a description and non-certificated employees.
Where are you at? It's on the second page for the definitions.
GCPS.
Give me a second, I think I had a couple, we're on
You're probably looking
the
at
policy, right?
Mm-hmm. Or the procedure, but.
It's not coming up, so hold on.
Are we looking at procedures or?
Both.
Yeah, okay.
Either one. We take them as a package.
Are there any other,
That's why I was confused.
First read.
are there any other questions on the,
I think Charlotte has one. I think that's.
because remember then we had to add the discrimination clause also under F.
Did you have a specific question?
I'm not finding it.
Okay. So this is all first read.
First read.
So if you have any feedback in the meantime, if you get that to Jane and.
And I will make sure I submit to you GCC. Again, I apologize, I'm not sure why. There was something different on board docs, but I will correct that tomorrow. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there again, please send me any comments if you have any, because I have to go to policy to discuss this stuff.
Well, the one, it was just different from what we had before, so I was
I know, I'm just
confused.
saying, you know, it'd be helpful for me to have your comments.
But we've never had them in advance of your meeting to know what policy procedures you're working on. It is. we
Well,
know.
on this one, we clearly have it right here, right? Because it's first reading. So if you have any, all I'm saying is, if you get it,
Yeah, let us know before the meeting.
but I think we need to try to get these out to everybody before the policy meeting, so that
Right.
everybody.
But see, we didn't have a policy committee, so we set up the policy committee to take care of some of the wrinkles out of it, okay? But if we start sending you questions, then it's got to go to everybody. So the policy committee actually took out some of the questions, okay? But there's still going to be some things that aren't picked up by the policy committee. And if we all want to be on the policy committee, then we just need to bring them back to the meeting, like we used to.
Or not
do.
have a policy meeting.
Right,
So,
yeah. And just everybody work on it together like we used to do.
well, but that's what we're sort of doing right now, I think.
But in the less,
Well, I don't really care. It's just if I'm going to come up to a meeting for policy, I'd like to be able to see that it's worthwhile.
Are we always told when the policy committee's meeting? I never know. Nobody ever.
Well, see, these are all things that we ought to probably act
No,
on.
we haven't done that, but I think that we could.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something we've never been told.
I'm not being critical, I'm just saying that, you
I
know,
understand.
we ought to have some,
Sure.
we ought to make the best use of our time.
Right, but like she said, we don't get them until after you see them. And
Well,
then
we're
we
talking
get the
about
change
changing
after
things.
that. Okay.
If you don't get them, obviously, you can't send
You
that
know,
comments in.
while we're talking about policy, I had a long conversation here before we start with Jeff and Jesse. One of the biggest needs we have as a system is to get our policies and procedures in a place that a normal person who gets on our website could find them. Some of them are in board docs, some of them are on the website, some of them have numbers, some of them have letters. I can't find them, and I'm semi-normal.
It's not user-friendly, that's the word to sum it up.
Yeah, it's just, we really need to make that a priority this year, that we're going to try to get those things in good working order, to be transparent with parents and anybody else who wants to look at it.
The online thing should be easier. Part of the problem with the numbers and the letters was they changed and so as we get to them,
Yeah, the ones that aren't yet on board docs are the ones that need updated. So that was kind of our way of knowing which ones still need an update.
So they go right on board docs after we get them.
After we approve them, right?
It's just,
But we're working through all the ones that have
It's a
numbers.
maze to try to find things, just really.
Oh, it doesn't work well. Yeah.
Go click on it, you have to keep going back. I know it needs some work.
All right, this is, next one is going to be like, I don't know, it's just a mess. JB.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
There you go. Nice introduction.
So what we did is, as a committee, we took the original, ESSA's requiring us to have an equity policy, and we took the policy, the sample that was given by MAVE, and took that to the policy committee first, and we decided that it needed to be split up into a policy and procedure, so we did that, and so this is a first read.
So this is one of those, I think we're required that at least be on our agenda before July.
Right.
That we are in process and considering it, but.
And it's very, it's very detailed the way it is right now, but again, I was cautious to veer too far away from the MAVE example. What we talked about at the policy committee was maybe trying to put this through initially and then working from it for a while and see how, what changes are needed.
Well, we tried to change some statements.
We did take
that
some.
would make it possible to do instead of
And we
just.
spent
It's really an aspirational
It's
thing.
aspirational.
It's very aspirational.
Policy and procedure.
Now, may I ask a question? Down under accountability, it says those Maryland accountability framework. Is that the wording you wanted to use there?
Which one are you looking at, Charlotte? Procedure or policy?
I'm looking at the policy.
There's Maryland accountability framework indicators.
That's probably something that's in the Comar thing, I bet.
Yeah.
But we probably should then clarify what that is.
With those, I just want those.
Well, it's just, I think it's just the form of speech there. Accountability, those Maryland accountability framework indicators in place to guarantee you can say but that was, again, their wording. You can change those to the Maryland accountability framework indicators in place to guarantee oversight of opportunities, resources, and educational rigor that lead to achievement for each student. That's defining that. Those definitions came to us from Maine. Again,
It's not a sentence, it's a definition.
Well, yeah,
The definition doesn't necessarily have to be a sentence, but it does.
It doesn't read smoothly,
It's
but-
weird, yeah.
Either either just started off with Maryland accountability framework indicators.
So take out those.
Karen, this is all new, so shouldn't it be all in red?
It should be. It's very difficult to read. It was a big document. I just took the liberty of, since it said new at the top, I took the liberty of bringing it to you in black. It's very difficult to read it. Well, I've done that in the past. It's very difficult to read the whole thing in red. I know. I can put it in red. I don't know.
Under the policy, this is a question for Barb. When you go to D, responsibilities or implementations, it says in order to ensure equity, the superintendent of schools will develop guidelines to be implemented in all schools and for all students and all employees. Where will these guidelines be that you have to implement?
Well,
Or what are they
generally,
referring
the
to?
main probably calls guidelines, the procedures. A lot of districts call the guideline part
So the procedure.
So when we analyze the procedure, that would be the list of guidelines, or we may even change that to procedure to be implemented.
So you're saying these guidelines then would be, we would look at over here in this procedure, okay. So then maybe we should use that. Because when I see guidelines, my question is where do we find the guidelines?
Right.
Well, so what can we change?
I'm going to change that
Procedures?
word guidelines to procedures.
Right.
That's fine.
Having said that, again, when you read the procedures, they're very aspirational.
It's being
And
30,000 foot view.
I just was reluctant to make too many changes. As I heard Dr. Salmon speak last week at that Joint Federal Titles Conference, and this is her baby. All leaders have an initiative, and this equity initiative in Maryland is her baby. I am reluctant to move too far a center from that.
We just made minor changes.
Yeah.
It was longer.
Huh?
It was longer.
We did.
I do. When you look at procedure, sorry, Katie, you can go. Hold your hand up.
Okay. I just generally looking at this, I understand the purpose behind it, that we want to achieve equity. There's not really a clear, like you said, it's aspirational, and I'm not exactly sure that maybe a parent or an interested onlooker would look at this and understand what we're trying to get across.
That was kind of the discussion.
We had the exact same discussion.
But since we took the model policy and procedure, then that's why it reads that way.
And the other thing is that equity is not going to be one, you're not going to get a glance, you're not going to get one piece of data, but it's a, I think it's really a paradigm shift over, it blankets literally every single thing that happens in the school system. And I think that for us to try to par it down or, drill it down from this to how are we going to measure it? I mean, some of the measurement tools are going to be kind of given to us through the star rating and the demographic data that we do generally. But this was a hard one.
Well, the one thing we can do, it says the superintendent shall establish an equity advisory board to assist in the development of an action plan.
Yeah, the action
I see
Implement this
that.
policy.
That's where we said the action plan is.
That's one thing we can do, and then let them work out the details.
The action plan is where
I see that kind of driving, any systemic changes or anything.
Because the devil's in the detail on this, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, but if I have questions, like I'm thinking other people want to have questions. So like, I need to somewhat, when I
there's
cross
a lot.
procedure, we need to
You're going to
understand.
have questions on every sentence in this.
Yeah, that's the way.
this
We were
is-
like,
Let's just throw it out there and let the whole.
But this is what their guidelines are.
Right. But I still need a little bit further information on it, explanation.
Well,
Because if I have the question, I'm sure someone else is going to ask.
Absolutely. We all had questions too.
When I look at G on it, which it's under, it's just G.
Still on the procedure,
I'm looking at procedure. C, administrative procedures. When you go to G, provide the access and opportunity for all students to successfully read on grade level by the end of grade 2. You can provide, but does that mean that they're supposed to be reading on grade level 2?
It says provide access.
Opportunity.
And opportunities.
But it says successfully read on grade level, meaning that they've accomplished it, but I'm sure there's some that,
Oh, yes.
That's one that's impossible to meet.
well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That one is questionable.
But you have to give everybody the opportunity.
Right, we give
True.
the opportunity.
True.
Well, when we had the Reading First initiative in Garrett County Schools, that goal was by the end of grade 3, and research showed that if they are not reading on grade level by the end of grade 3, they won't catch up.
Right.
And so it's grade 2 is very similar. That's why we provide Orton Gillingham training, and all of our teachers
So
are
we're
trained.
providing, I mean,
Right, that's the
these are
opportunity, that's
loose
the access,
enough that we-
updated materials, Read 180, the literacy
Right.
plan. All of those things are the opportunity and the access. But you're right, that's got to be the goal, but it's not going to be easily achieved.
So what you want to do is under each one of these, you want to put down
Have
what you're
some sort of-
doing and
right.
document what you're doing to meet that goal. So you don't have it
That
yet.
would be that committee.
That action plan is
Yeah, that'd be the action. plan.
consolidated master
So
plan.
what are we doing to give equal opportunity to everybody?
Right.
Second grade.
Well, when you look at L,
On
diversity of our teacher and administrative staff to meet the student population.
Yeah, well, exactly.
So it means we need to have 1% of a minority
Yes, we
group.
do.
That's not, see,
That's
that's
what
not
we
the intent of
clarified.
this. But that's one of those.
That's the unintended intent.
Right.
Well, we're meeting it.
Intent.
We probably do meet it.
Well,
The diversity of our students.
if the wrong person come in there and say, you have 1% of a diverse population, where's your 1% of your
Well,
teachers
that's
that
right.
are?
You should be trying to do that.
Yes,
We do,
at
it's
least
equal
recruiting.
access to recruiting.
Yeah, recruiting. I mean, we have to show that we've tried to recruit up there.
Oh, yeah. We did, we had
In
that.
various areas.
That's been that's a problem across all ages.
Yes, exactly.
So we know that it's well written, or it's the intent, because it came from the state, we know that the intent is there. I think that the best, I think that what you said, Dr. Paul, is that Mrs. Baker needs to make the committee and have the committee really look at it, because I think it's like a year's worth of work to really
At least,
focus
yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
And it says the committee, the board, is a advisory committee of the board and shall include the superintendent as well as members from the following stakeholder groups. So the minutes to those meetings and all will have to be posted because they're committees of the board have to be, yeah. And I'm sure that's the reason they put that in there.
But you can pick any one of these great schools with a welcoming, inclusive culture, environment that reflect and support the diversity of the student population, their families, and their community. All right. How are you going to do that? What specific actions do you take to do that? This is basically aspirational.
Yeah.
And the devil's in the details. So you really have to have this committee working on action plans. This is what we'll do. A, B, C. And you need the data on what is diversity.
Yep.
Are you looking at how
Even when you look at I, designate an individual responsible for the facilitation, monitoring, and implementation of the school system equity incentives. Who would that individual be?
well, we have to designate.
But I mean, I didn't.
Usually you tag one duty to somebody else.
So when does the committee, how long do you have to get the committee together?
Well, that wasn't really defined, and we didn't want to put anything extra in here that wasn't already defined, because as you can tell from the conversation tonight, I think we need to get a core committee together, and you're absolutely right that the superintendent and board members have to be involved in that, and I think that my thought is on it that if we take a year and like somebody takes the lead on this and sets regular meetings, that we can develop it according to, again, these aspirations, but according to Garrett County Public Schools specific needs, like where, we can look at that committee can look at the data and determine where the needs are that we need to meet to get to those aspirations.
I think that would be the best.
I think that would be the best.
I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best. I think that would
think one thing for sure is we're required to have a policy and procedure in place right now, so that's why we're coming.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think
Considering by the
getting
July meeting.
getting the policy and procedure in place, and then
Well, no,
the committee does its work.
And that's another reason why we knew we needed to have it, and they provided one, that's what we strayed too far from it. But it is the first read, so I just.
So these are things like, this is what we should be doing, this is what we should do, and the how we're gonna do it comes later on.
Right, yeah. And that MABE training that I went to on equity, the board in making their decisions should be considering all of these factors when you're making your decisions. So, which is in the committee meeting, it would be difficult for us to write the procedures right now when we don't really know, we haven't used this lens before. So it just seemed to make more sense to leave it, I apologize, but leave it loose like this for now, and then let the committee really do some specific work on what our equity procedures should look like. I would assume, my thought would be we would approve a policy and procedure, something very similar to this now, with the hope that a year from now we would come back and make amendments with the action plan and make amendments to the procedures, like specific.
My guess is you're doing most of this now, it's just a matter of documenting what you're doing.
Or outlining it, making sure that we're having that equity lens with everything that we're doing.
I could give you examples on how I know that you're doing it now.
Right.
All right. So that one is work in progress. Okay. The next one is the BBBH. So this one, it was in regards to questions last month when we were looking at our process for the student board member. So all we did here was added the format and then took out public schools and put Board of Education. Under B, public schools should be out under the third line there, under the policy statement. It should just say members of the Board of Education shall make the final selection. And the rest of that is pretty much the same. Where we did change a little was more in the procedure. So we just added the purpose, which was word for word for the policy. But we clarified the nature of the alternate student member, clarifying particularly in Part B, number 8, if the student member is excused from a regularly scheduled or special meeting of the Garrett County Board of Education, then the alternate student member may attend and participate. Because if you remember, it was previously, if the student board member was unable to fulfill their term and they vacated the office, then they would, the alternate would take over, but there wasn't a provision for the alternate to fill in a meeting. That's basic changes. Questions?
I thought we read it.
This is the second read. This is the first read, I'm sorry. You and I didn't read it.
It's hard, when you're on the policy committee, it's hard to remember.
No, man, I do have one question.
Yeah.
Under policy, B, policy statement, the last sentence, I see we scratched out, shall make the final selection of the student member and alternate in May of each year.
I just moved in May of each year up to the first sentence.
Okay.
Didn't take it out, it just.
Okay, that's what, I thought we still had one May.
Anything else?
Yes, question 5.
I'm
sorry that I didn't know.
Can I request something really quickly before we go to that break? And I don't know if this is proper or not, but in light of what Rodney asked, if you do, since this was the first read on the equity policy, if there are things that you think, can you send those changes to me in an email prior to the second read, prior to next month, so that I could at least get them in there? Or yeah.
Just, I think it's important to know for everybody to know when policy meetings are and to know who the members are, who goes to.
But I like
like your idea of putting them out ahead of time, whether we
Yeah,
get
that
them
way
all
if
ironed
there's
out or
a-
not. They'll
someone
know
else
when the
to know.
meetings are and when we're going to review them.
So I just want to give everybody an opportunity to get their 2 cents worth before we put the work in the policy.
Right. Well, and to streamline this policy.
Then we spend less time on it.
Well, then this policy is a perfect example. Everybody's seeing it for the first time, and then if we don't talk about it until the next board meeting, then there's another big discussion.
So that
We
was
made the first
the.
stab at trying to.
Did you have anything on the student board member one?
For the report, or?
No.
No.
Oh, you want to give your report and then we'll take a break?
No, it's okay.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm ready to.
I would say
I'm ready to just plow through, but that's.
We only got 3 more things to do, so.
I said let her do your board member report, they go to the restroom.
Oh, yeah.
You
well,
sure?
let's have a break.
Okay.
It's not up to me.
WBIS committee held the first Red Month redemption. This was as an incentive. It was held outside at the football stadium, and classes competed in various games like capture the flag or the t-shirt relay. In this, it was kind of a field day, but classes competing against each other. And then Northern and Southern student councils both are ending this current year with elections and discussing objectives and expectations for the upcoming year. In addition, National Honor Society helped at the graduation ceremony with setting up, handing out programs, and directing people to their seats as necessary. Also with the pages, which I was able to attend both graduation ceremonies, and I thought they were a nice celebration of the students' accomplishments. Finally, Garrett County Associations of Student Councils is planning to hold a meeting this Saturday for inauguration for incoming members and to discuss the upcoming year. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Katie?
Do they meet, to do it this Saturday, will they meet anytime in July, or should they take a break off?
Usually we take a break off. I think we'll probably meet toward the end of August to plan various. I'm not really sure what's on the agenda. Yep.
All right. This board member updates. It's been a busy time with graduations and awards assemblies and plays and all the retirement dinners and concerts and all the rest. So anyone want to report any specific activities?
I just wanted to say that I did get to attend the graduations, and both the high school graduations, Swan Meadow, unfortunately was able to make it to the elementary schools this year, but I'm sure they were very nice also. And I also went to the award ceremonies, and I'd like to thank the community and also the organizations. I think we heard at both schools, Northern and Southern, that there were like over $100,000 in scholarships that were awarded just from the community and from from trust and things like that. I think it's wonderful that our community is so caring and that they give these folks a chance to go to college or to tech schools or wherever they would like to go, so that their dreams can come true. So it was very the award ceremonies were very nice and well attended by parents and the community also. I think that was very good. Yes, thank you.
All right. Anything else?
I went to pretty much everything that Charlotte mentioned, but I did go to kindergarten and a 5th grade graduation, accidents, art in the park school. Several board members were at that. And I believe our FFA, the Southern's FFA banquet too, was since our last board meeting. So it's a busy time of year.
Mm-hmm.
Can't attend everything, but I think those things have been attended by a board member.
I went to the JRTC, Northern JRTC dinner they had on the 5th. Went to the this reigning year's Teachers of the Year that Karen put on down at the Dutchess. Very nice time there with them. Also went to visit 4 schools with Barb. I wanted to see 4 schools' physical plants a little better so that I'd have a better understanding when Dr. Lever's report comes back as to what he might or might not propose. Went to the Krellin PTO when they proposed their new research projects and watched the kids explain what they were going to do. That was really a cool thing to listen to them talk about how they were going to. And then the interaction from the professor from West Virginia University that steered them in the various directions to be successful. Went to the white coat ceremony. It's the first time I've done that. That was very impressive. At the hospital. And Art in the Park, and I don't know, Swan Meadow graduation, which I always think is, I said to Charlotte, anybody who thinks that they have predisposed thoughts about Swan Meadow needs to go to the graduation. And tell me what your thoughts are after graduation time. Okay, because it is one of the neatest things that I think I've gone to as a board member, is to how they do that, just the method by which they do it. So, yeah, it was a busy month. It was fun to see all those places.
All right.
I went to a lot of things.
Yeah, that's the way I feel. There's a lot of things.
I do want to echo what Charlotte said about the incredible generosity of the Garrett County community, because you go to those awards ceremonies and you see the amount of money that's given out in scholarships. It's, it just never amazes me, the generosity of the Garrett County organizations and the public up here. So it made for a wonderful event, probably at both schools. And I agree with you on Swan Meadow. That was quite a graduation event.
It is.
The other thing I did, I visited the Bennett Road site with Charlotte and the superintendent, and that was interesting to see how we're consolidating all the transportation and facilities, actually supplies that go out to the schools and that type of thing. It was very informative for me to actually see that. I went to Mrs. Gilbert's graduation at Swan Meadow. That was a real nice event, and it was a real busy moment. But everything everybody said is, the one thing I do regret is not getting to the retirement dinner. I had some family things that came up and I couldn't go, but I really think it's important to honor our retirees, and I understand it was a really nice event. So next year, I promise I'll be there.
We'd like to encourage people to come to that. I think we had was it 27 or something, and we had 7, or anyway, I forget exactly how it was.
7.
But, it's very, you don't have to do a speech. If you can just come and get your award and enjoy the evening, spend the evening with us. And it's really a very nice time.
We talked, and it was probably a good time to mention this, Barb, is, we talked, the 3 of us talked, that next year when we get the list of retirees, if you could share that list with us a couple weeks before the retirement dinner, if we know them personally, I think we should, as board members, call them. And just personally call them and say it would mean a lot of you would come to this, and we would appreciate being able to honor you. And it may be the difference for some people. We just need a phone call. Feel like they're appreciated.
And also, I was told some people are discouraged, or not discouraged. They don't want to write something about themselves. They don't want to brag about themselves. So maybe you could say it's optional if they didn't want to. Maybe other staff in their building or principal could still say something complimenting about them, and that would work.
You never ask the staff member. It's the principal.
Right, so.
That's the state. But I think it would work for anybody to write about themselves. We always ask the principal.
Good writing.
And sometimes it brings right back. If the principal retires, then
All right, we're moving on to the ratification of employee contracts. So take these one by one.
So we have two contracts to ratify this evening. One is the AFT contract, which is the head custodian cafeteria managers. You should have that in front of you.
So any questions or clarifications on this one? Is there a motion to approve the head custodian's cafeteria manager contract?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Drinker. Is there a second? Second by Rodney. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. It is approved. Next one is GASA.
Yes, yes. Are there any questions with the GASA contract?
All right. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Woods. Is there a second? Second by Rodney. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. It is approved. Now with the other two, do we need to approve those tonight, or?
The other two, the two GCEA, Unit 1 and Unit 3 with support, our hope is that that contract will be ratified by Friday. We're hoping that we're on the right path towards achieving that goal. So,
For them, wouldn't it?
So that's what I was
Effect
asking.
July 1.
right, right.
Special meeting.
That's what I was going to say. Is it ratify subject to approval?
Yeah,
That's what I think we should do.
yeah. I move we ratify those other two contracts, subject to approval of the.
Okay. Been moved by Rodney to ratify the other two subject to approval. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second. Just to get the discussion.
Been moved and seconded. So this would be for Unit 1 and Unit 3. Further discussion?
There was one concern that we had concerning late nights, that section. I think it would be wise to perhaps try to just wipe that section out totally. There's really no need for it. It would appear that we don't need it. It's all right, no, it's all right. So there would be no discussion. It's either approve or disapprove.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Nay. All right, they're approved pending the
So you will let us know
final ratification.
after you tentatively meet with that.
Thank you. All right, there are a few informational items on there. And for the home and school connection summer information and this calendar for student distribution. And then we must return to executive session at 10:04. Is there a motion to return to executive?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Monica, second by Charlotte. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. We are in executive again.